Bad thing. You have Dave Wiltsey on the line?
Not yet.
So what they did was they were running late.
I know.
Carl, I don't.
Pretty soon they're just gonna call it Courtney. It was a lot of minor older.
Yeah, 6 o'clock. Let's go.
Fine.
Yeah, you know, there's,
Good?
I'm listening, I'm just, there's nobody there.
Yeah, there's nobody there and there's, this is for me. There's nobody there either.
You want some
And a couple,
The other one.
this will hang on to a couple extras.
Okay.
Nobody's sitting there.
Okay.
Say no to that. I'm asking you.
Anything at October yet? One that is May. At the very far end of town, south, under the freeway.
Yeah, I got that driveway roundabout there. Oh, that's gonna eat up a bunch of farmland.
See, they got those fucking things are dangerous. You know,
But there's a side circle. That's what I come
a
on.
lot of they put them up in.
Minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Palestine.
Gotta get that done this next week.
That's 20, but
Got a lot coming up.
My brother, sounds like you've already got your,
to get into it,
already,
All right.
But they know, oh,
Well,
I out over it.
by the way, you wouldn't want to uproot.
Yeah.
as soon as they get onto it,
All right, good evening, everyone. Let's get organized. I'm going to call this special meeting of the Boone County Board to order Thursday, September 5th, 2024. We will begin with roll call. Rodney Riley is here. Ryan Curry.
Here.
Brian Schneider.
Here.
Ray Larson.
here,
Brett Mueller. Not yet. Tom Wahlberg.
Here.
Lisa Patterson is running late. Dana Logston.
sure.
Sherry Branson.
Here.
Carl Johnson's not joining us tonight, I don't think. Marion Thornberry. All right. Mr. Wiltsey, is he online by chance? No? Yeah,
Negative.
very good. All right, we do have a quorum. 3.1, approval of agenda. I need a motion to approve the agenda, please. Motion by Mr. Curry, second by Mr. Schneider. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carries. Moving along to public comment tonight. I have one slip here. Mr. Steve Hindy. Mr. Hindy, if you would approach the microphone, please. Your full name and address for the record, sir, and you have 3 minutes.
Steve Hindy, 3W799 Oak Leaf Drive, Melbourne. I see that the event on Highway 173 in Poplar Grove has been canceled and that the permit for September 15th in Spring Grove is canceled, and that's good. That's a start. I'd like to briefly discuss the matter of the 173 event last year on September 20th, 2023. Steers were shocked or pricked with sharp objects. Injured steers were denied veterinary care, horses were mistreated, and there were no identification bibs. The county has the video evidence. They've had it for a long time, and there should be charges. The police report that night says Rick, that's Rick Borrett, stated he had already spoken with the Boone County State's Attorney's Office, and they felt a third-party call was not enough for him to go there to investigate. The problem with that explanation is that our calls to the police are always coming from a third party because the pilots who are flying the drones and focusing cameras on moving targets are completely engaged. Rick Borrett knows this because he has seen our operation firsthand. In that situation, pilots are recording a crime that is still happening. A third-party caller is no reason not to do the job. Like all the other excuses for not dealing with steer tailing, I have to call each one out to try and keep it from happening again. Moving forward, when we have a call, it will be a third party, but we never have and never will call the police for nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hindy. And I had for public comment, did I miss anyone? All right. Seeing none, I want to make a note that Mr. Board Member Brett Mueller joined us at 6:04 PM. And from what I understand, Mr. Wiltsey is now online. So could I entertain a motion to allow Dave Wiltsey to attend the meeting remotely? Motion by Mr. Schneider, second by Ms. Branson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Welcome, Dave. Are you there?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank
Very
you,
good.
members of the board.
All right, very good. The only matter of business on tonight's special board meeting is 5.1, a motion to approve the design development phase for the courthouse as presented by Savadra Architects. Can I get that motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Curry, second by Mr. Thornberry. Entertain the presentation before we have any discussion. And let the record reflect that Lisa Patterson has joined us at 6:05 PM. Welcome, Lisa. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you?
Good.
Well, thank you for allowing us again to present the design development for the courthouse. On July 18, this board approved the schematic design, and time goes really fast. So now we are here presenting you the design development, and time really goes fast when we are having fun. So the presentation that you are going to see today will have all of the drawings and all of the floor plans that we have worked together with the design team. So next. The design team is composed by you, the Boone County Board, by CCS and Randy Darnell, who is the owner rep, and I believe Randy is online today, and by Saavedra Group Architects, which includes Dan Saavedra, which is myself, Marco San Roman, my business partner, and Angelica Conrejo, who has been helping us substantially in the development of this project. Also with us is Eckenhoff Sanders, which is the consulting architect that we are using for the development of this, and includes Mike Vinci, the principal, Tracy Piexonka, the associate principal and interior lead, and Alan Jorer, who is the architect that we have been working together for this project. There are 3 other consultants that are included in the design team as ML Engineers, which is the structural engineer, RTM, which is the mechanical engineer, and CES, the civil engineer. It's important to note that we have met with all of the user groups. Let's go floor plans. We have met with all of the user groups for the design of each one of their spaces. We have listened to their concerns, we have listened to their needs, and have modified the drawings accordingly to the point that the drawings that you are seeing today here represent most of those changes, most of those requirements and needs, except for a couple that are in the lower level that occurred today at approximately 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning. So the presentation was done. We didn't want to change it, but they are going to be changed. It's a minor change that we are going to do there. So if we go through the plans, all of the plans have been defined, detailed, and the spaces have been determined. So this is the plan that we are going to ask you with the minor changes in the lower level. We are going to ask you to authorize us to proceed, approve the design development, which means that you are going to authorize us to proceed to the construction documents, which is the documents that contractors are going to use to bid the project, and it will take a lot more development for that. In that table, you see the package of the design development drawings. What you have here is just the 3 or 4 pages of the design development out of the 50 or 60 pages that are included in there with the specifications. So I'm going to ask Alan to guide us through the process of evolution of the schematic design to the design development as we are today. Alan?
Thanks, Dan. I'd like to give a shout out to Becky and Randy as well. They were awesome to work with throughout this whole thing. And we got to learn a lot about the existing courthouse. And we also got to learn a lot about the user groups that are using this facility. And we listened to a lot of their wants, needs, and, you know, kind of expectations for what they get out of this when we're done, when this thing becomes a reality next year, hopefully. So initially, you know, we looked at this as, you know, this is design development. So it's a process. So we took a look at the existing structures and we just, you know, immediately fell in love with the existing Italianate buildings, you know, the courthouse and then an administrative building. Just, you know, two of the oldest structures in all of Illinois. And out of that, you know, we developed a initial concept of a very kind of similar approach, which was very Italianate in origin, looking at proportion, but replicating a lot of the similar things of the other two. We then kind of pushed past that, understanding we still want to take a lot of those elements that are so beautiful with the existing structures, and how do we still have that, but how do we also respect the kind of the history? So we kind of look at this as a movement of, you have this deep rooted history from 1942,
Yeah.
which is just incredible.
The second continuing in operation courthouse in the state of Illinois.
Correct. Yeah. So with that in mind, we decided we kind of want to put the emphasis back on that building. And through that, we began to take a look at this kind of evolution. If you take a look at the slides where we have that kind of modular, and then we're separating a little bit from both buildings to really let them be their own buildings rather than be kind of hidden behind another facade. Because this building here is, you know, 30 feet away from the street, which is, you know, it's going to be the first thing you see, but how can we also kind of shine light onto the existing structures? So this is where we ended up coming through with. So we took the Italianate arches and the proportion. So the beautiful thing about Italianate, it's very springy, very light in nature. So we took those elements, and you can see it here pretty nicely in the slide from the existing courthouse. And we brought those elements over into this new piece. And in a way, this kind of becomes more of a gatehouse, a gatekeeping way into the new structure to facilitate for the courtrooms and the administrative side of things. The big component is we decided to add and modernize that second level to be, since that's where the offices are for the state attorneys, we wanted that to be a little bit lighter and a little more contemporary with what the modern office space is like today. So you'll notice the deep overhangs and the vertical fins coming out as well. Those are done because of light shading. You have beautiful southeast light coming through here, but as you know, if you're staring at that all day, it could be a problem. So we put a little overhang on there, and then you would also have some shaders in there to help kind of, you know, diffuse that light a little bit.
And the floor plan was already contemporary in the inside. We had a lot of glass in the inside. We had a lot of open. So we wanted to reflect the same thing in the outside without distorting and going away from the historical character of the two buildings.
Correct. Yes. So that's how we got where we are. And then, so this is just then taking a look at the next steps of, if it gets approved tonight, the things that will follow now that we are kind of past the design development submission. So as Dan mentioned, I'll let you take over from here, Dan. We'll be moving into construction document phasing.
So you see the schedule in the next page. And this schedule reflects all of the next steps that we are going to do. today we are the second line of the design development line on the blue, under the blue color. So we have to, immediately after approval of this, we're going to enter into the development of the construction documents, which is even more detailed than the design development, and providing all of the specs and technical drawings in order for general contractors to do the public bidding for this project. After that, we enter into the phase of the permit and the bidding. So you see all of the dates in your package, all of the dates that we are proposing in order to complete and have this project approved with the general contractor before the end of the year, so you can allocate the funds that are needed to be allocated before the end of the year. The bottom line represents, in a very quick graphic, represents the schedule, and the little red line that is above represents where we are today. So it's a simple way to clearly see where we are today and what is next in the process. Let's go to the next one. Any questions up to now? Next slide. Okay. So this is a view at night for the courthouse. And what we are going to this is going to be really an icon and a beautiful beacon in downtown Belvedere. I don't know if Randy has any questions or any comments.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So in addition to the presentation drawings that you all have in your packet, the architects and engineers have submitted the following documents as part of the design development phase. And some of those are on the table there in front of you. It's 67 pages of construction drawings, a 240-page architectural and engineering specification, an 8-page detailed cost estimate. CCS has reviewed all the documents that are submitted and are satisfied that the submittal meets the criteria of design development. At this point, I'm happy to report that the project is on schedule and within the budget. Therefore, it's our recommendation to approve the design development phase and move forward into construction documents. Thank you.
Any questions?
Anyone have any questions? Ms. Branson?
I have just one. It looks like a beautiful building.
Thank you.
The first thought when I'm looking at this is with all those windows, I understand you're putting the fins and stuff out there. I have no idea what kind of windows they are and what their energy efficiency is going to be.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. So actually, this is a bit deceiving in where I think we did a really good job of adding a lot of light, but it looks more than what's actually there. So I did the calculations. That this new addition only accounts for 38% of it is glass, and the rest is a solid wall. Based on the new code standard for energy, or the 2021 standard, 40% is considered to be excellent. So we're slightly under that by 2%. And also, Modern and Dan, you could probably speak to this, the technical side, but the glass itself,
it's a low E glass, and it's going to be glass that allows the proper penetration of light into the space. In addition to that, we are suggesting and recommending that we use Meko shades or similar, which is shades that come down, allows the users in the inside to see outside, and blocks also additional heat gain or cold gain for with those shades.
And it's going to be the type of window that is going to, I don't know what they call it actually, so forgive me here, but they make windows now that have some kind of film or something built into them so that you don't have a lot of fading of your furniture and your carpeting and stuff like that. Is that what we're putting in?
This is an insulated glass, and one of the things that we need to decide what we are using in each pane of the window. And yes, what you are suggesting is correct. We can use one that has a little tint that will allow us to not have this direct sunlight into the interior space, and the tint will protect those elements in the inside.
Okay.
It's like a UV protector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what they call it. I just know that I have a sofa that is two different colors
Yeah.
from sitting in front of a bay window, you know?
Yeah, and so, in the software we use too, when we came up with this, I put in the summer solstice on here to see, so that's your most intense sun coming in. And you don't have any direct sun at noon coming into the building at all. So because of where the fins are located, so.
Okay.
And that might take a little bit of tweaking. And then the other nice thing about having all that glass is thinking about it in the wintertime. And this is something we can hopefully we can get modeled, but from an energy efficiency, you get solar heat gain then in the wintertime. So that reduces your heating costs in the winter months. So yeah.
And that's something that we normally use in all of the buildings that we do, because energy is important, and management of buildings that consume less energy and actually produce energy in some cases is part of what we do in our practices.
I appreciate you
Sure.
addressing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Loxton?
Yeah, just to piggyback on top of what Sherry said, those shades, those would be electric, right? So basically button down, they all come down at once.
It depends on where we get with
Depends on budget. So
Okay.
you can have those manually operated, and we are going to do an alternate price for electrically operated. I strongly recommend to use the electrical operation of this, specifically because we want to see all of these windows go up and down at the same level, not this one here and Mrs. X has this one in this way, Mr. F has this one right there. So I think by having it all going at equal distances, it will be, the building will look a lot better.
Okay, and finally on that, have you considered doing like a double shade where you have like a scrim in the front and then you have like a blackout shade that comes down, if like two different?
If we needed, there is the option to do that. There is the option of complete blackout, or the option of having between 5% and 3% penetration. So there is a lot of difference in those materials, but I doubt it that we are going to need the complete blackout on the space, unless it's a specific need that we have not been, nobody has indicated to us.
Thank you.
Okay.
What else? Okay, see you done. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there's a motion on the floor in a second. Do we need a roll call for this or just? So we'd probably better for spending.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. We're going to take a roll call vote on this. Rodney Riley, aye. Ryan Curry,
Yes.
Brian Schneider,
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey. Come back to Dave. Ray Larson,
Aye.
Brent Mueller,
Aye.
Tom Wahlberg,
Aye.
Elisa Patterson,
Yes.
Dana Logston,
Aye.
Sherry Branson,
Aye.
Marion Thornberry.
Yes.
Okay. One more time, Dave Wiltsey.
Aye.
Thank you, sir. All right, motion carries.
Thank
All right, we have nothing else on the agenda for this special Boone County Board meeting, so I motion, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting, please? Motion by Mr. Thornberry, second by Mr. Schneider. In favor, aye?
Aye.
No? Motion carries. The special board meeting is adjourned at 6:25 PM. We will immediately move on to the Thursday, September 5th, 2024 Committee of the Whole Administration meeting. So we will call
Yeah.
meeting to order at 6:25. We'll start with the roll call. Rodney Riley, aye, or here. Ryan Curry.
Here.
Ryan Schneider.
Here.
Dave Wiltsey.
Here.
Ray Larson.
Here.
Brent Mueller.
Here.
Tom Wahlberg. Here. Lisa Patterson.
Here.
Dana Logston. Jerry Branson. Carl Johnson is absent. Marion Thornberry. And just for the record, for this meeting, can I allow Dave Wiltsey to attend this meeting remotely? Motion by Mr. Mueller, second by Mr. Schneider. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carries. Approval, wait a minute, let me get back to my room here. Guys, just a second. All right, I need to entertain a motion to approve June 13th, 2024 Committee of the Whole Finance. Hold it, not done yet. Committee of the Whole Finance Executive Meeting Minutes and the July 2nd, 2024 Committee of the Whole Administration Meeting Minutes. Motion by Mr. Curry, second by Mr. Thornberry. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no.
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Motion carries. Approval of the agenda, 4.1. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting, please?
Move.
Motion by Mr. Larson, second by Mr. Curry. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Got you, Dave. Thank you. Motion carries. 5.1, any further public comment for tonight? Seeing none, we'll move along. Mr. Larson.
Chairman Ryan. Item 6 is monthly presentations. 6.1 is recognition of service to Dr. Dan Lendman for his dedication to the animals of Boone County.
All right, and I will do that presentation real quick up here at the podium. Dr. Lindman, if you join me at the podium, please. And I believe Animal Service, those employees that want to step up forward as well, if you're welcome. If you don't, that's fine, but come on up. We have Director Rick Ward here and his staff. Welcome. Thank you all for coming. And I'm going to read just exactly what it says here, Doc. It says, presented to Dr. Dan Lendman, DVM, Boone County Veterinarian, November 1st, 2010 to September 30th of 2024, in recognition of your outstanding service and dedication to the animals of Boone County. Boone County government and Boone County Animal Services thanks you and wishes you the very best. Congratulations, sir.
I didn't actually realize it's been 14 years, almost 14 years. It was always a pleasure serving the county and the animals here. And I think we've got a great staff at Boone County Animal Services. Obviously, we have a fairly new building from a few years ago. I think it's both a group and a building that, you know, the county can be proud of. And I think the staff and everyone does a great job there.
Thank you, sir. Animal Services.
I just wanted to say thank you for all the support that you've given all of us, Kelly and I, from back in 2020, and then all the other people that have worked with us over the years. Thank you for the mentorship over the years. And you know, we've been through a lot of stuff in those years that we've worked together. And I really appreciate everything you've done for us.
Sure.
Please.
I've known Dr. Lenman.
Just right up there. You got to stand up there.
Okay,
You're gonna talk.
okay. I've known Dr. Lenman for many, many years. When he first got out of school and he started his own practice, worked at the Animal Emergency Clinic. We worked there together. And it's always been a pleasure.
If you take just a second, would you introduce your staff here, please?
So if you haven't met them and maybe you did at the fair or elsewhere, Officer Amanda Hollerauer and Officer Dwayne Lopez. And then down at the end, we have Dr. Erin Wing. And with your blessing, she will be the next county veterinarian.
We're moving in that direction.
All right.
It's on the agenda. All right. Thank you again, everybody, for coming down. All right.
Moving on to 6.2, Public Safety, Boone County Sheriff Young. Give us.
All right, good evening, everybody. All right, obviously to start off with, as always, the three main budgets are posted. Unfortunately, we're starting to see some red this early in the budget process. Obviously, this was reported on the 28th of August, so we have 3 months to go in this fiscal year. So obviously, I present the budget next week, so obviously a lot of that will be discussed next week. So everything is in there that you'll need to see. And once again, like I do monthly, most of the reason for the red is our staffing. At the current time, our patrol division is 3 short. 2 officers will be off FTO this coming week, so that will help. And then we also have 2 out on medical. With that, I want to send a shout out to Sergeant Ed Krieger. If you saw that on our Facebook, August 30th was his last day with the Boone County Sheriff's Office after 28 years of service. So we can't thank him enough for his 28 years of service to the Boone County Sheriff's Department and also the Boone County community. So thank you for that, Sergeant Krieger. In corrections, we're currently 3 short. With that, obviously all that's included in there in the jail report. We have a couple that are still on light duty. Light duty, obviously in corrections, maybe I've explained it in the past, but in the controls, what we call the controls, obviously they can work in there because they handle all the doors and all the situations like that. So they can handle that on a light duty basis. In dispatch, we're 1 short. We just hired 1 last week. So technically we're, like I said, she's going to be in the FTO process for the next couple months. And then we're in the process of hiring the second. So obviously with the 2 in FTO, but when I present in October, we should be full staff in dispatch. Also, I attached the memo that I presented to the Boone County Fair Board. That was our overtime hours that the Boone County Sheriff's Department and dispatch spent out there at the fair. Just let you know, it was yesterday or today, we received full payment from the Boone County Board, so that's all been paid. So Kurt will be getting that check very soon. So that's very nice of the Fair Board to fully reimburse us our entire 19,000. I don't know exactly what it was, 18,000 that we spent out there in just 6 days. So that's very nice of them. As far as the month of August, obviously we had a fatal accident on Poplar Grove Road just south of Marengo. Our victim there was a 16-year-old young lady. So that was very, very sad news for everyone up at the sheriff's office. That happened just before the fair. So obviously that investigation is continuing. There's a lot going on with that right now as we speak. We also had a very serious accident at the intersection of Hunter Road and Capron Road. This victim was a 21-year-old female from the Capron area. And I just got word just tonight, just a little after 5, that yesterday she opened one of her eyes. It sounds like she's gonna pull through, but she's definitely got a long way to go. So definitely we're sending our prayers out for her. Also, if you had seen on Facebook, we've had some shed burglaries in the northern Boone County. This comes across sometimes the wrong way on social media. These were not residential burglaries. I don't want to put light into the difference between a shed burglary and a residential burglary. And the number was incorrect as well. At this time, I think we're at 4. That was approximately a week, 10 days ago was our last one, I believe. So obviously we're investigating those as well. So we do have a few shed burglaries in northern Boone County that occurred in about a week, 10-day span. We have not had one in the last week or so. Going back to the fair, obviously that was very successful for all of us, for the fair, for Boone County, and the Sheriff's Department. I know I stressed that leading up to that, how difficult of a week that is for us. But we did make it through, knock on wood, for another year with just minor incidents out there. Calls for service for the month of August, we had 3,105 compared to 2,400 in August of 2023. So that's up to 700 calls from last year. Now a few, with all that exciting news I got to give you, a couple data boys. I know they're not here, but I want to recognize 3 of our deputies that were recognized by AIM. AIM is Alliance Against Intoxicated Motorists. So we had 3 officers. This is the calendar year for 2023. And we just get that information in July. So we had Deputy Shane Laga, Deputy Robert Thomas Pester, and Deputy Austin Richards. So I do want to do a shout out to those 3 officers who were recognized by AIM. Obviously, they get a certificate, and that will go in their personnel file for their activity and being strong on DUI performances. They also, if you ever want to look that up, AIM also has a very nice website that goes over the stats for the state of Illinois. I don't like to compare us with other agencies because we're all trying to do the same thing and we're all in this together. But this year, Boone County Sheriff's Department ranked, and this is just counties, not municipalities. So out of the 102 counties, we placed 6th out of the entire 102 counties for the number of DUIs that we gave out. That was 138. So I'm very, very proud of those numbers. And just to give you an example, the 2 counties ahead of us were McHenry. They were in 5th with 141. They have 110 deputies. We have 40. And in 4th place with 186 was Will County. They have 194 deputies. So it shows us that we do have some very aggressive officers out there that are doing their job day in and day in and nighttime, for obviously for your safety and for everyone's safety traveling through Boone County. They also do a number ranked on per officers that you have. Again, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to brag about my department a little bit. So we averaged 3.54 DUI arrests per officer. The Illinois State Police averaged 2.37. If you know what the Illinois State Police, they're strictly 95% of their duty is traffic enforcement. So that says a lot of, again, what we're doing with the Boone County Sheriff's Department. A couple of things coming up on September 18th and 19th. The entire department will receive training from iPro on our body-worn cameras. So I know we're getting closer. So basically what we have to do is So obviously all of our officers got to go through this training to wear these cameras. Also, Andy from our maintenance, he has to install, when I brought that up a few months ago, when we got to connect our in-car cameras to our body cameras, that all has to be connected in the car, and our own maintenance guy is doing that. He's going to have to spend 3 to 4 hours per car to get that going, so it's going to take a while to get all of our squad cars up and going. He's going to try to do 5 or 6 before the 18th. Because they want to have a few cars that are set up that way just to make sure everything is working on his behalf as well. So once we do that training, obviously it's just not going to be go turn your cameras on, we're ready to go. Then we got to get more of the squad cars set up. So we are getting closer. So just be patient, but I know we got to be there really soon. It's getting here quick. And lastly, I know I included on September 21st, Saturday morning, we will be doing a dedication to our new training center. It's getting pretty close to complete now. We are going to dedicate this training center in the name of Dwayne Worth, obviously the longtime Boone County Sheriff. I know I've said it before in the past that he served this county for 36 years as the sheriff. And he definitely deserves something like this. So I really would like to invite all you county board members, because this doesn't happen if it's not for you. I know we had some that were the past county board members that bought this property. But you definitely were behind everything that's been put into this training center. And I will say you did it right, because this will be for this department training our deputies, Belvedere's officers, several officers from other jurisdictions for the next 2-3 decades. So it was done right. And we can't thank you enough for giving that to us. So if you can show up, it's going to be short, bright and early on a Saturday morning. It won't last long, much more than an hour. We'll get in and out, dedicate this wonderful facility in the name of Dwayne, and then we'll go from there. And
Branson?
That's my code to be done. I mean,
Oh, I just can't read the time. I got somebody's head's in the way.
we're going to open the doors. We're going to have like an opening at 9, and then we'll do our dedication to Sheriff Worth 9:30.
It's on,
Thank you.
Yep.
it's on board docs too.
Yep. And we'll get that out on social media. Well, this stuff we'll be getting this stuff out. So I just wanted to give it to you guys first, and then we'll get it out after that.
Any other questions, comments? Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you,
Good night.
Sheriff. Yeah. 6.3, Boone County Highway Engineer, Mr. Crone, monthly presentation.
Docs, I just put some documents on there for your review. Real quickly, safety, we're always trying to do safety improvements. We'll talk a little bit more detail on that here later in the meeting. I did want to mention, as we discussed last month, mumble strips. I did look into those a little bit further and get some additional information. There's a standard out there that I received. So that's in our files now for if we ever want to implement that practice. The closest mumble strip that I was able to find is down in Ohio, Illinois at the intersection of 26 and 92. Lee County engineer, I spoke with him about it. He's driven through that quite a few times. He said he doesn't even notice that they're there. So that's, I guess, positive for the residents, but not really effective, I don't believe. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that was discussed last week, and I told you I'd come back with some information, and that's what I have to share with you. So that is an option in the future if we need it. Town Hall Road project. In your packet, there is, many of you have seen this in the past. There's the Town Hall Extension Road project that we've called it. We've got an existing project to do planning and design for this roadway. This is our arterial roadway, basically to go from ultimately down to US 20 and 90, back up to 76. So this is a very long range project. The section between Newburgh and 20 is owned by IDOT, 350-foot wide right away. So it's ready to go and be built. The northern section is the section that I'm focusing on because, this is an area where we've seen a lot of development historically, and there's a lot of work being done with the 3 roundabouts being proposed by IDOT on 76 in Woodstock, Caledonia, and Spring Creek, and as well as the 4-lane improvements on State Street. So with all of that activity going on, we decided to go forward with looking at a design to kind of firm up some right of way within this corridor that's been studied for decades. And I had some public meetings. I brought this to the fair for public input. Didn't get a lot of information, but one thing that came out of it was the idea of having all the intersections come to one location. So that would eliminate 2 of IDOC's roundabouts. So the sheet that you have up on board docs right there in front of us tonight, that shows the basically a 5-legged intersection. None of this, so I have about a month and a half ago, I went down to IDOT prior to coming up with this idea. We went down to IDOT and spoke with them on different options, tried to get some of their input. Not a lot of activity as far as changes go towards what they're looking to do. However, I wanted to come to the board with kind of various options, various ideas, and this one I'm calling option C. I'm sorry, alternate C, option 2. So we have an A, B, and C. Prior to this, I was leaning heavily towards A, which basically is a diagonal straight across. This one kind of goes east-west, and then it goes north-south. Not quite as much diagonal. So I'm just, this is not on here for formal action, but it is on here for a presentation to discuss and ask questions or kind of give me thumbs up, thumbs down, stay away from this, don't, those types of comments. And if you haven't had a chance to really look through it all and don't have comments yet, I'm available for comments by phone or email anytime. But that's essentially what I have. And so I'm open to any questions or comments on that. I would like to go to IDOT here kind of with a unified front. I think if I say, if I get from the board indication that option alternate C2 that we have up on the board tonight, that is something I want to go to, I go down to IDOT. I would guess we're looking at maybe a 20% success at me trying to convince IDOT to do some modifications to what they're currently planning on doing. So, there's a long road ahead of us in order to modify anything that IDOT's looking at doing right now. So I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything, or I want to make sure I'm not doing anything that's against the wishes of the board.
Mr. Curry?
First of all, thank you, Justin. Appreciate all the work you're putting into this. The properties that are split by Spring Creek, the farmland, how many, are most of those owned by the same farmer, or are those split properties?
It varies. We are aware to not have any landlocked issues or situations. So we're making sure that we provide anything that's got frontage right now will have frontage in the future.
And have you spoken with the farmers that own the land that would cut through their property?
So I put a notice in the paper, general notices. I've advertised quite a bit. I have not yet gone to, because I don't really know for sure which direction we're leaning, and that's where I'm trying to get. And I'm trying to talk to IDOT. So once we get kind of a go ahead with, let's really focus on this corridor, then at that point, then I'll start contacting farmers and probably go to IDOT first, because I have a feeling that that's going to be the most difficult portion of it. But yeah, once I make a determination on what likely impacts will be had, then I'll go to those landowners.
Thank you.
Mr. Riley?
I just took a couple notes here when you were talking about mumble versus rumble. In the milling of that, is one cheaper than the other runabout, or do you know?
I do know it's pretty insignificant. If I had to guess, I would say the mumble is probably a little more expensive, but it's pretty insignificant.
Just curious. Thank you.
Mr. Wahlberg?
Yeah, so Justin, I too want to thank you for all your work on this. I mean, I think that, every truck driver that runs Highway 76, right, or majority of our residents in Boone County that this roadways impacts would greatly appreciate only having one roundabout versus 3 roundabouts. So it's a significant savings also for the state of Illinois. I understand it's federal money, but, there should be something that we could get some folks behind you to support this, maybe with the legislation and that, those folks that, could help in this conversation, because it does make a lot of sense to just have the one roundabout versus having three plan is for today. Thank you for that.
Back to Chairman Riley's question. So for a group of a group, which means three individual rumble strips, you're looking at about $1,500. And the mumble versus rumble would probably be within a 10-20% difference. But so if you're going to do an intersection, four-legged intersection, you're looking at $6,000.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Branson?
I have a question, Justin. I haven't met anybody that really is fond of roundabouts, especially three of them. So I understand one is probably less painful than three of them. But I'm also looking at this map, and even though there's a lot of development, there's a whole lot of farm equipment that goes through there and a lot of semis. Are they going to be able to accommodate? Or will I don't know if I'm wording this right, will the roundabout accommodate the size of the farm equipment and the semis?
According to IDOT, the answer is yes. And I don't say that with the intention of not believing that. I think that it's really not the geometrics of the roundabout that are the issue. It's more or less the rapid acceleration of the passenger vehicles that I see issues with. For heavier weight vehicles, they can't accelerate like a faster, lighter weight vehicle. So that's where you see the issue. But as far as geometrically getting through the roundabout, that's usually not the problem. In fact, this design according to IDOT, this design on Illinois Route 76 would accommodate wide load, oversized load semis that go through there. Just quite often you see those large windmill propellers or whatever that go through there. Right, our office is right out in front of it, so I see them quite frequently. So though, I think the geometrics is not the concern; it's the acceleration. So if you have, a loaded grain bin in a tractor, a low gear, getting out, accelerating out into that, to me, those are the challenges.
Okay. Do you know of any solution to help those farmers? Anything we could do differently?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like any intersection or any kind of conflict, intersections are conflict points. So it's like any of those, if we had to go across, if a grain hauler has to go across a two-legged or a two-way stopped intersection, they do have to accelerate across that as well. So, it's, if you're going through an intersection with higher volumes, that acceleration, and that window to get through that is more challenging. I guess to answer your question though is, there are some, if we determine, if IDOT determines or designers determine that there's a specific route that is heavily frequented by oversized or heavy loads, they can make a bypass, dedicated right lane bypass through there so that those vehicles don't even enter the roundabout. So that is an option.
That might be wise.
Yeah, I don't know that that's the case here, but that is an option for that type of situation.
Thank you.
Mr. Curry?
They're all over Wisconsin. Nobody ever has a problem. Semis, combines, everything. Their way of life now. There's 7 in a row in Oshkosh, so they all get through there. And I shared the same concern as Sherry did. It's not a concern.
Mr. Thornberry?
I see a problem with it on the southbound side. Northbound side probably wouldn't be too big a deal. But your northbound or your southbound side, your overload trucks, and let's not be mistaken, this is the state designated highway for oversized loads. This is the only, we can't run a toll road. This is the only designated highway for oversized loads. I know, I've been there. But your southbound side, you're gonna have to go, anybody coming south is gonna have to go completely all the way around that thing. And there is no way some of these wide loads, oversized loads can do that. So if you make a bypass, it's gonna have to be both ways. Because your southbound side is gonna be worse than your northbound side for oversized loads.
I've seen people just go straight through it.
Be like the one they do on Auburn and Rockford, that was supposed to be so great.
So
Go ahead.
I guess if there's no other comments or questions, I think in conclusion here is, so we've had this multi-decade old plan that's been provided to IDOT without the roundabouts, and that was done, like I say, decades ago. This is kind of a revision to that based on their roundabout requests or their roundabout design. If there's no opposition to what we have in front of us tonight, I would like to go down to IDOT and say, hey, what about this, and see what their reaction is. And I think that would be my next step, is just to say if it's if they throw me out the door, or if they're willing to listen, and then I can report back.
Mr. Mueller?
Looking at the map here, the old one, it looks like they abandoned 76. So would that still you'd completely abandon it going down to the fairgrounds?
Yeah, that's a good observation. So when this was originally done, this was done with the intent of 76 would be then Fairgrounds Road, would be a local, either a county or township road. The new 76 would then take this new route all the way down to 90/20 and that, somewhere down there. And that's still, my intent is when we design this, I'm going to design it with right-of-ways and curves and all that to abide by the IDOT requirements, so that if we ever wanted to, or there was ever a indication to make this the 76 route, we can do that. When this was put together, that was the intent. That was the full intent. I personally don't have a lot of history on this, but talking to those that did go through this process, the intent was that, yes, we would build this $50+ million roadway. And then IDOT would take it over, and we would get, they would reconstruct their existing 76, and then that would get turned over to the locals. The build out would ultimately be able to handle a 4-lane roadway. We'd only build 2 lanes initially, give it to IDOT, and then if the right way would be such that it could accommodate 4 lanes in the future, and it would be an arterial road with limited access, and the curves would be designed, and the roadway would be designed according to IDOT standards for 55-mile-per-hour arterial road. And I guess one other thing too, real quick, is kind of there's multiple reasons why I'm really pushing this project, and I mentioned that the roundabouts are being constructed out there, so I don't want to negate this. This route by constructing something that isn't consistent with future capacity that we might need. So with the roundabouts, with 20 going 4-lane, we've already talked to them about shifting the road over to accommodate for a future wider town hall road. So that's in place. There's a lot of I keep hearing that we're in a housing deficit. So there could, depending on economy and different variables, obviously, there could be a lot of push for development in this area. I mean, if you look at it, it's kind of starting to kind of encroach in on this area, but it's still wide open. So I think we're losing our opportunity to purchase right away and to lock this in as a viable corridor. Once there's homes going in here, then the expense and the viability go down, or the expense goes up and the viability goes down of making this happen. That's the real push here. And then also one last thing is funding. R1 has some federal funds so we're on this planning stage. We are using IMEG to go through the planning and phase 1 and phase 2 planning and design. We are using 80% federal money for that 20% match on our part. For phase 3, I don't have any programmed in it, but there is a pretty large opportunity through R1 right now, based on multiple factors with them, that a project like this could score well and could get funded. So, all of those factors are really causing me to kind of push this one right now. if the funding doesn't come through, this is not something that we would spend our local taxpayer money on. We would want to go to a state or federal program to get this funded. This is not something that we would tackle locally.
Okay, so you just want basically like consensus that Mr. Crone should pursue this? Is there anybody vehemently opposed to it?
See what you can find out. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Crone? No. Okay, all right, thank you. We have no quarterly department presentations. Is there any discussion on any of the written monthly departmental reports and updates? Seeing none, we'll go on to the new business. 9.1, I need a motion to approve the claims in the amount of $237,679.87 with the understanding Carl Johnson abstains from voting on all claims presented by William Charles, Northern Illinois Service Company, Core and Maine, all claims submitted by the Boone County Highway Department, and all claims submitted by any county department regarding sewage, stormwater, construction, and excavation. Need a motion. Mr. Logson made the motion. Mr. Mueller seconded. Any discussion on this? We do the roll call for this, please.
Do a roll call vote. Tony Riley, aye. Ryan Curry,
Yes.
Brian Schneider,
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Aye.
Thank you. Ray Larson,
Aye.
Brent Mueller,
Aye.
Tom Wahlberg,
Aye.
Elisa Patterson,
Yes.
Dana Logston,
Aye.
Jerry Branson,
Yes.
Marion Thornberry.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Motion carries. Thank you. 9.2 are the raffles, and we need we don't need a motion for this, correct?
No, we just.
We do need a representative from the State Street Gaming Lucky Mustangs present.
Come on up.
I don't know if they actually need to,
Yeah.
but if you would,
Class D licensor, so
if you wouldn't mind, maybe.
yeah, it's a Class D license. We just need to know what your raffles, just briefly what your raffle.
It's gonna be for the Queen of Hearts, and it's, drawn every week, and 25% of it goes to a donation for something, and then the other goes towards the winner. We don't take any of the money, so.
Okay, Mr. Riley?
Do you have a sponsor or who your donation's going to, or?
We're gonna have different ones.
Okay.
So, so it's not gonna be, it's gonna hopefully take a little while for it to build up and stuff, and we're just trying to get something going, get some traffic going through, and that's mainly what we're doing.
Okay.
Questions from anybody?
Anybody else have any questions, comments on this?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
So we don't need a motion for it to those forward, correct? So we'll go on to 9.3. I need a motion to approve the veterinarian administrator agreement between Boone County and Dr. Aaron Wing as so moved. Motion by Mr. Mueller, seconded by Mr. Curry. Any discussion? Ms. Tobin, jump in on that one, Becky.
Good. And Dr. Aaron is here if you want to hear from her at all. The biggest changes to the contract, your last one with Dr. Ledman was a 3-year contract. This one is actually 14 months. There's 2 months left of this fiscal year, and then it will also cover our next fiscal year. And then we'll go from there. The cost of our vet services, we've been really lucky for the last 14 years. Thank you, Dan. But it's not realistic to expect those kinds of services for such a small amount of money. So those fees have increased. It is now $2,400 a month is what's in this contract for a total of $28,800 per year. Those are the two big changes from the last contract. Pardon?
Go ahead.
Oh, it was prior, it was half that. It's 14, and 14,400. It was 1,200 a month.
Dr. Wing, would you like to come introduce yourself maybe, please?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Erin Wing. I worked with Dr. Dan for actually, I think, maybe 8 or 9 years as I was going through vet school and was a tech at our clinic. And I've been a doctor for the past few years now. And I'm looking forward to working with everyone here and continuing to help the animals of Boone County.
Mr. Barrett.
Ms. Tobin kind of alluded to this. 14 years ago, Dr. Lemon agreed to take on this position for $1,200 a month. And over that 14 years, he never once asked for an increase. And like Ms. Tobin mentioned, we feel like after 14 years, the position certainly warrants, the increase in compensation for that. The county gets a lot of value for what we pay for that. And I really hope, and Ms. Tobin and I put a lot of discussion into this, and we feel like this is the right move for us. My staff and I have gotten to work with Dr. Wing for the time that she's been at State Street, so we're all well acquainted. And hopefully we'll support this as well.
Mr. Mueller?
Rick, approximately how many animals does the vet see?
Dozens, multiple dozens, multiple dozens. It varies depending on the season. Traffic and animal welfare tends to correlate with outside temperatures. So over the several colder months of the year, animal intakes tend to be really low. And then as the temperatures rise in the spring, the traffic increases significantly. We've had significant impounds this year. So typically several dozen a month, that would be expected.
I'm comparing our monthly herd checks to basically this is a monthly fee for the animals of Boone County. And then like our herd check per month for a dairy farm is roughly about $300 a month. But the vet's only there once a month looking at 400 animals. So I'm just trying to justify the $2,400. It's a 100% increase. It goes from 1,200 to 2,400. So I'm just looking at, trying to look out for the taxpayers' bodies.
Understandable. Appreciate that.
Tobin?
4 or 5 days a week, oftentimes multiple times in the same day. Probably. Okay. There's hardly a day that goes by, especially during the warm months, that one of us or all of us in some cases are at State Street Animal Clinic. And what the county and organization gets and the animals get for what we're paying for is backdoor service. We drive around, pull up at the back door, walk in with an animal, and get seen usually within a matter of 5-10 minutes for emergency situations. Sometimes a little bit longer, depending, they triage also, but you couldn't get that type of service anywhere, and we get that. And then a lot of other stuff on top of that. The veterinarian also fulfills the job description is in the Animal Control Act. There's a bunch of different things that they're required by statute to do when they take on the job. Dangerous dog and vicious dog investigations. I work with them to decide whether the event matches that. They sign the paperwork and we'll have to defend those decisions to court. They participate in trials as expert witnesses. There's just a lot of things that they do. And again, I think it's important to recognize that Dr. Lem, it would have been reasonable for him to expect salary increases at regular intervals over the years. Didn't ask for them on purpose. He's a Boone County resident. for a long time, and in the discussions that we've had over the years, he didn't ask for the pay increases that could have been expected as a courtesy to the county as a resident and wanting to support the county as a resident.
Thank you. I just kind of wanted to clarify it. So thank you.
Tobin? Yes.
Rick might have covered it.
That's what
Mr. Walber?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ball. So, as I look to your budget coming up, you know, you've got some additional expense in there that you call veterinary services. I think one line item was 6,500, another one was 7,500. Is there some services that will be included? As we look at an increase in fee, will they be doing more work? Will they doing spaying, neutering? What is that?
So a couple
Money, I guess.
couple of things there. The largest jump under that line item is the compensation for the veterinarian. There are other things that go under that line item. Most of the veterinary care that we get is paid for out of the donation fund, Fund 120, which is funded by the public that want to support veterinary care of the animals. We don't feel it's appropriate to ask those people to pay for euthanasia fluid and other drugs that are used in the euthanasia animals. It doesn't seem appropriate. It's not why people donate money to help euthanize when it's necessary. And then some other supplies that are used in the course of doing what they do and us at the shelter come out of that under Fund 12 with that line item as well.
So just for clarity, you don't see any cost savings by that's coming along with this increase in this fee in some other area of your department?
Everything is getting more expensive. The supplies, the drugs that are used, whether it's the euthanasia fluid, the tranquilizers, the vaccines, all of these things that the animals receive, everything has gotten significantly more expensive in the last couple of years.
Ms. Tobin?
And just to remind everyone is, we're required by state statute to have a licensed vet as our vet administrator. So she's accepting the liability as that administrator. So that's a big deal. And there are not many vets out there that want to take on this responsibility, especially vets within Boone County working at a clinic that we have a good relationship with. So that aspect is super important.
To piggyback after Ms. Tobin, for those of you that were here 3 years ago before Dr. Lemmon's current contract was approved, I was asked by board members that were here at the time to do a study with other veterinarians in the county. And I went to Belvedere Family Pet Clinic and met with Dr. Bruce Probst, who was formerly the county veterinarian many years ago, and also Dr. Malik up in Poplar Grove. Neither one of them were able to make that commitment. Dr. Probst has a very busy clinic himself, and he's just got one veterinarian working for them. And then knowing what the job entails, he couldn't commit to that. And then Dr. Malik, they're also pretty busy up there. And he works up there by himself, and he could not make that commitment either. So personally, I feel like we're fortunate to have Dr. Wing willing to step into that role. And again, just to reiterate that Ms. Tobin and I've spent a lot of time on this and going over the numbers. We understand it's a jump up. It's a jump up, now compared to what probably should have been incremental jumps over the last 14 years.
Is there any other discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Welcome.
Item 9.4 fiscal year 2025 budget presentations of Animal Services, Health Department, GIS, and the Highway Department. Ms. Tobin?
I guess Rick can just go right straight back up there for budget. Rick, you're up.
Just letting them know that they may want to leave.
Rick, I hate to interrupt you, but I know this is important stuff. I know you're very monotone, but for my benefit, please speak up a little bit, all right? Thank you.
It's funny you said that. When I was in college, I got marked down for a lack of inflection in my speech.
I don't think he's monotone. I don't know about you.
Sorry.
Oh, that's great.
Lean into the mic.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you've seen by looking over this, we're in a bit of a pinch. Are projected to be in a bit of a pinch for this upcoming year. Ms. Tobin and I have a few ideas on how to make up for that, and we're certainly open to other suggestions. We're projecting or forecasting for next year right now, needing to come up with another $12,000. One of the ideas that we came up with, and at least in my opinion, and maybe hers too, is going back to the other jurisdictions in the county and asking them to help facilitate day-to-day operations through municipality fees, which is something that is used, model is used in a lot of other counties to help operate an animal services organization. These organizations are required by the Animal Control Act to all 102 counties in Illinois have to have an animal services organization or contract with another one for services. So we have to exist. There's things in the Animal Control Act by statute we have to do, but there's a lot of other stuff that we do in addition to that, things that aren't covered in the statutes. And so we proposed going to the city and the Village of Poplar Grove and Cape in Timberlane and asking them to participate in funding the organization. Came from Winnebago County, as you know. I worked over there for 11 years. A lot of their operational budget comes from those fees, and the model that they use over there is they build 11 different jurisdictions there each year based on the number of calls in the different jurisdictions. So the city obviously receives a very large bill because 60% is done there. And then proportionally smaller bills, Loves Park, McChesney Park, and so on. We see something like that here as being a possibility to help out. If you're agreeable to it, to have discussions with the city and the other villages or whatever, and see if we can come up with some agreement with them to reduce that shortfall.
I could add to that. So yeah, this came up in probably 15 years ago. I'm not sure yet if Dan was vet yet. It was like 15, 16 years ago, this exact same thing. We had all the municipalities on board to help pay except for the city of Belvedere. They saw it as a double dipping, that residents were paying tags and then paying more on top of it. And then at that time, the state's attorney, I think it was his opinion, I'm not sure if there's a formal written opinion, Trisha's looking into that, was that certain aspects of the statute we were required to do, including dogs at large, barking dogs, things like that. So I've had a couple conversations with Trisha, and she's going to look into it a little bit further and see if she thinks it's reasonable for us to go back to the municipalities. Since there are so many other counties doing that with municipalities, we want to make sure, are they doing it illegally, or is there something we could be doing and really try and make that an effort, because that seems like that is would be the best way to go rather than raising fees again or structuring how we do things. So.
Something that came up in the city recently too is they've recently passed a number of animals ordinance, which did not exist until probably within the last month. So it's not in chapter 18 of the city's codes. It's in their building codes, and we only enforce chapter 18. So I think it may be reasonable to go to them and use that also, possibly pitch an MOA to them, to enforce that also. Loves Park also has a number of animals ordinances in their building code, and Winnebago Animal Services had an MOA with them to enforce their number of animals ordinance, even though it wasn't in the animal chapter of their codes. I can certainly explore that with some of our other neighbors and see how they're doing things. I see that as being something that could help facilitate that, as this is a possibility. And then there's a couple of other things that we thought about as well. The registration fees is one, was one possibility. It would be our last, I guess, preference or whatever. Something that we've talked about and has been brought up before is the amount of revenue, the percentage of revenue that goes into Fund 11, the Building and Maintenance Fund. I've calculated the math multiple times, and we're sending over 15%. It's like 15.5% of revenue into that fund. And what I've found is that industry standards for infrastructure is between 2 and 5% of revenue, and we're sending 3 times that much to infrastructure. We currently have a policy. The previous board implemented a policy to send $5 of every tag sold to that fund. Our proposal is changing from the $5 per registration to a percentage of revenue, 10 to 12% as opposed to 15%. It would still keep Fund 11 well-funded, we think, and we would see that fund continue to grow over time. Right now, the fund has just a hair over $100,000 in it. It would have grown significantly more this year, but we did have nearly $25,000 HVAC project that came out of that fund this year. Otherwise, it would have grown by that much more. We feel like, that's another possibility as well to help keep Fund 12 balanced. And we're certainly open to other suggestions. And the one other thing on that, I guess, before I move on, it is our officers are spending a lot of the time during the day working on enforcement as well. Every time they go on a call that involves a dog or a cat, one of the things that they do is check rabies vaccination and registration status, and then holding people accountable to that, either through written warnings with a follow-up, giving them 2 to 3 weeks to get that resolved and then pay the registration fees. And if they fail to do that, then they'll receive violation notices and fine, which we also receive. And then in addition to fine, they still have to get the registration. So we do work diligently on that as well. Unfortunately, it's not enough to cover the spread.
Mr. Curry?
Yeah, I'd definitely be in favor of changing that. That we have to change from the operation cost, that 15% that you're given. Have you calculated the percentages to see what would be needed? At what percent can you still give sufficient enough into your operating budget and still maintain this or balance that budget to what you need?
I think 10 to 12% instead of 15.5 would come pretty close to cover.
At 10.
I'd say 10's still high, I think, but I'm just saying I want you to be comfortable, but
10%.
because that account has a lot of money in it.
It does.
It's not that you'll be scraping, you know.
We would not be, it would still be well funded. I think we would, instead of seeing the fund grow by 25,000 a year, we would probably see 11 grow by 20,000 a year. Pretty, you know, somewhere close to that. That we would see it grow.
Well, I guess change an ordinance. What has to happen on our,
We can bring that back next month if that's something you want to consider. That would help balance, at least for this year, as we work on other avenues with the municipalities. You can always change it back if we are able to contract with municipalities, you can always change it back.
We can get them to agree to help fund the organization, and we feel like they rightly should be. We're doing a lot of stuff for them that is not covered in the Animal Control Act, and we are not statutorily required to do. We feel like they should be paying for it, and if we can get them to agree to that, after 1 year, we may not have to do that. You know, we could send more revenue to Fund 11 and see it grow more over time. It is important to have it, you know, we had a storm that ripped the roof off, or, you know, some type of natural disaster or some, you know, or needing to expand the kennels in a few years. We need money in that fund. There's no doubt about that. But we want to keep 12 balanced, just, you know, also.
Ms. Tobin?
One more thing, you don't see a request for a vehicle on here because I'm hopeful, General Mills is going to come through hopefully with one of the General Mills hometown grants and help us pay for a new vehicle. We even said, we'll put General Mills all over the whole thing. We don't care. But I should hear from him in the next week or two. That's when their grant cycle opens. And he seemed pretty optimistic that that was something that they would cover, so.
We've been sticking Band-Aids on the other one, a few $100 here, a few $100 there, keeping it going.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a couple things that are gonna be looked into, and then we'll have another discussion next month. Is there anything else you have?
Any more questions?
Well, Mr. Thornberry?
Like Becky said, you're gonna get a lot of flack from the municipalities because they didn't want to go for it before. They're probably not gonna want to go for it now. But it doesn't mean we can't try. But there's also another issue that was brought up in 2012 when I was on the board, and that's a county official trying to enforce laws within the city limits. That was another one of their arguments. So.
That animal services should or should not be.
Animal services, I'm telling you what they told us at that time. Animal services is a county organization.
Were they arguing that our organization shouldn't be enforcing stuff in the city?
The argument was you didn't have the authority being a county official operating within the city limits. So as one of their city residents made a cut, you were gonna lose automatically.
I can tell you from having several conversations with Mr. Morris and several city councilmen that certainly changed over the years. They're more than happy to have us enforce those calls for them.
As long as somebody else pays for it.
We'll see.
I mean, Mr. Curry?
Stop operating in the city of Belvedere, and that would probably save somebody.
Just telling you what they've already told us once.
Just.
Yeah, some percent.
Okay. Any other questions, comments for Mr. Barrett there? Okay. Thank you. We go on to the health department. Budget presentation with Ms. Mail.
Tammy says I have 2 minutes. That's really probably all I need though, actually. Good evening, everyone. Amanda Mail here with the Boone County Health Department. And just before I go over just a few brief highlights of our proposed FY25 budget, if I may, please, I just want to extend a congratulations and a thank you to Dr. Dan Lundman. He also served for 14 years on the Boone County Board of Health as the Board of Health veterinarian and provided a lot of support on our finance committee, our general board meetings, and helped us with several potential investigation situations involving disease control with animals. So we're very grateful for your service there and thank you for your time with the Board of Health. Really appreciate it. All right, so very briefly, just as a reminder, because I know that the Board of Health and the Health Department's budget process is just a little bit different than the other county departments. So our budget is made up of 3 main components. So we have fees, grants, and then our 2 tax levies. And usually by the time we're getting to you all to discuss any changes, it's specifically related to changes in fees or changes in the levy, of which we're not proposing or requesting any increases or changes to either of those this year. So that should simplify the process immensely for all of you. The Board of Health has their own appointed finance committee. And so we start our process in July and work with the finance committee of the Board of Health, take it to the full board, and then bring it forward to county admin and then present it here briefly to all of you. Last year, we did do levy increase discussions and fee increase discussions, so we won't need to do that again this year. Our budget is balanced, the one that we're proposing, and it's pretty straightforward this year without a lot of changes. So we'll start really quick, if you don't mind, Becky, on the revenues page. So just to point out a few things, and I'm going to start from the top and go down, just hit a couple of details. So 301.100 is the health tax referendum. This appears that there is a 31% increase projected, but the increase that you all put forward and approved last year actually posted in the next fiscal year. And so the 250,925 is what we're currently receiving and what we're proposing to receive in FY25, to clarify. And then on 301.200 on the health tax resolution, this looks a little wonky too. It says negative 50%. 2 fiscal years ago, there was a period of 2 years where that tax levy was not properly levied. And so that's been resolved, that's been fixed, but that's why it appears to be in a negative number. If we jump down to 360.070, the Mississippi Health Fund, this is a line item that is a little bit of a moving target, and it's based on supplemental grants that we receive. So not like our pillar keystone state and federal grants, but I can give you a few examples. We had a National Association for City County Health Officers vaccine equity grant that was very small, and it complemented some of our other state and federal grants. We also had a Birth to 5 grant that was to supplement and layer on top of some of our maternal child health programs. We put items in that line item. We're anticipating that will go down because we don't have any major supplemental grants that are on the horizon. We're actually shifting a lot of our focus to some more intense, more detailed state and federal grants that help us to meet certain health priorities in a more long-term way. So that's why you're seeing that negative 20% projected decrease. And then if we jump all the way down to 399.100, which is state and federal grants, which is a really key budget line item for us. We're really careful with this one when we go into the period. We really only put grants in here that are non-competitive, that we are for sure going to get, or grants where we have an award letter, it's competitive, but we already have the award letter, it's been executed, and we know we can count on those funds. So we did have several COVID-related grants that we are not anticipating getting. We're not expecting to have anything related to COVID. Now it's respiratory surveillance is the new term to cover all things flu, COVID, coughs, hacks, snotty noses, all of the things, right? And so the negative 4% is because we are adjusting that down only to accommodate grants that we know for sure that we're going to be getting. However, we may apply in 6 months for a competitive grant, get it, and then it will throw this line item out of whack. But what else is new at the Boone County Health Department? We usually have to do 1 to 2 revisions every year to account for grants, competitive grants that we are able to go for and be awarded. And we always keep you all updated with those revised budget revisions. So the overall budget is down negative 8%. Like I mentioned, it is a balanced budget. And I can move to the expenditures, hit a few highlights. and then take any questions. So on the expenditures page, again, going from top to bottom, if you look at 401.132, Health Department staff wages, you'll see a negative 10% decrease. We have had over the last couple of fiscal years, we've had a decline in the COVID grant funding, like I mentioned. So when we have a grant that comes to a close, we've had some temporary or several year staff that were working in those grants that are no longer with us because those grants have ended. So you're going to see that decrease because we've pulled back on staff that aren't needed anymore because those grants have ended. Jumping down to 501.000 property maintenance, that's up 3% due to the fact that everything is going up. All costs are going up to maintain all things. 503.000 vehicle maintenance, that is being doubled because of the equipment used to maintain our mobile unit. We did have some grant funding this current fiscal year to cover some of our bus maintenance, but that's not always something that we can count on. We do write it into grants when we're able to, but we did double that line item because of the cost of maintaining that bus. If you look to 512.000 waste disposal, also up 6% because of the cost of everything going up with inflation. 522.000 is telephone. So we have been able to cut back on some of the mobile lines that we were carrying on our plan. That's an extremely expensive cost and has been with some of the virtual work that we were doing during COVID and some of the extended staff members that we had on board. As I mentioned, some of those staff members have ended their tenure with us or have been moved into more permanent positions that came available as their grants were ending. So telephone lines for COVID staff have been eliminated accordingly to save dollars. And we only have cell phones for certain designated staff. And it's almost always because the grant requires it, or it's required because of their field work. And most of the time a grant will pay for that. So that's the reason for that decrease. And then jump down 2 line items to 524.000 under travel. That's down 33%. This one's tricky. So a lot of our grants want to see a certain amount of mileage put in for certain outreach services. Oftentimes it's more than we believe we're going to need, but that's what they're requiring us to put in, even if we report the numbers of the specific outreach or service that we might be providing. And so usually by the end of the year that we're needing to propose that to be less because of that adjustment. So this year we're going to hopefully do a better job with that. And we have less grants this year covering specifically travel. And then the other reason that that one's down 33% is we had a couple of state and federal mandated conferences that went from being in person to being virtual or being hybrid. And so in that case, we don't have to pay for travel for that staff member if they can call in and do it via Zoom. So that's down there as well. Just a couple more things to point out, go down to 604.000, which is equipment. This is going to be down in fiscal year 2025 because in current fiscal year, we paid for an HVAC system on the roof, and we had a contract for our mobile unit for the servicing, driving, and maintenance of it. 999.400 outreach and advertising. We're also proposing a decrease in that. We had a couple of COVID grants that required a lot of specific advertising that we were needing to do for grant requirements that we won't be doing in the same way for the same amount of money this year, this proposed year. So that will be down 58% proposed. And then the last 3 line items that talk about FICA, IMRF, and health insurance, you're going to see a decrease in those areas. One of the major reasons for that is when we project staffing patterns for specific grants or for specific staff, we are oftentimes, if they're new or in an election period for what type of benefits they want, we're going to budget them for family, but they oftentimes might select, single plus spouse or single only. And in this case, our current staffing patterns indicate to us that we will have less staff electing higher plan rates that we would be responsible for. So that's why we're projecting a lower amount in there. So that is the expenditures, just a few highlights. Hope you're all still awake. I know it's riveting information. It's a pretty straightforward budget this year. It's balanced, and I can entertain any questions.
Any questions? Comments? Yeah, I just have one, I guess. Mr. Thornberry?
Are you responsible for the the drug program advertisement that's been running?
Which one?
Drug Coalition.
For the Boone County Drug Coalition? That grant is operated out of Youth Services Network.
Are you responsible for the advertising?
The Youth Services Network, the Health Department co-chair that. And so it's a group of stakeholders that vote on and make decisions on what advertising goes out for that particular CDC grant. That's not a grant that we manage fiscal on.
Your advertisements that I've seen has been coming out of what looks like North High School.
I know there's a couple running with youth involved in the advertising, yes.
I think it's working.
Yeah, I know they've worked really hard. We don't manage the funding, Youth Services Network does, but I know there's a group of students that are actively involved with Alyssa Ruffmeiler, who's the program manager for that particular grant. And they've been working really hard to try to reach youth in a way that is understandable. So I'm glad to hear that that's the feedback you're hearing. Yes.
I'm actually a part of that group, so I get their emails. I try to attend meetings, but like you said, they're the kids that are involved from the high school. It was pretty awesome to see how they operate and just like seeing the respect and responsibility that they have. It gives me some hope on, what we see. I'm sure our parents said the same thing about us when we came up through, but it's nice to see it's a good program. So.
Yeah, that peer-to-peer outreach is, evidence shows us that it works in almost all programs, whether it's youth and drug use, whether it's moms talking to other moms about breastfeeding. A lot of our programs have that peer-to-peer component. And that one in particular, we don't run specifically, but we're part of that coalition. And I know that there are youth that are actively involved in it and proud to be a part of it to hopefully reach their peers.
But I just had one question. Is there any way you can get any funds to help with the health department expansion renovations or?
Yeah, that's the golden question. So the very frustrating part about the infrastructure grants that are available right now, and I've spent the last 3 years working on that to no avail, is that they will cover everything else you want to do for infrastructure development, workforce development. You want to offer trainings, you want to send people to conferences, you want to expand a program or a service to meet a health priority. They will not cover overhead expenditures. They will not cover building development. About 7 years ago, we attempted to get one of our USDA grants through the Women, Infants, and Children program to cover a portion of the roof repairs that needed to happen. If you all remember, we like the courthouse had buckets with drips and staff getting wet during work hours because water was raining in on their heads. And we attempted to get USDA to cover a portion of that building repair, and they would not do it. We went through a 6 to 9 month back and forth battle with them, and they ultimately said no. We had to reallocate the funding for other ways. So I will continue to look into it. If we do find something, we're all about it. I know most recently with working with the Kluber architects, they had reached out to a couple of the other health departments that they've built most recently to ask my colleagues if they'd had any success, and we came back with zeros on everything. Nobody had been able to come up with any infrastructure money that would cover building development or expansion, which I share the concern that that's frustrating.
Ms. Tobin?
But I think what we did talk about, you may not be able to pay for any infrastructure, but possibly equipment and any furniture inside. You thought you perhaps.
Yeah, what I can oftentimes get grants to cover is, new desks, new rolly chairs. And those are things that we can get. I know we decreased seven drafts of the proposal, right, which we've talked about many times now, but I know in the proposal that you all ultimately selected, it was quite a reduction in terms of the equipment that would go in the building. And the purpose for that was to saddle our department with the responsibility to get the funding to make some of that furnishing happen, so that it wasn't falling on the overall budget that you all were approving, so.
But there's you have any other place you can take it from, property maintenance, even though, it's not much, I don't know, $1. I'd like to see $1 or something. Donate it towards.
We don't, unfortunately. A lot of the items that go into the different line items are specifically related to grant requirements. So like outreach and advertising, for example, that we talked about, or travel or conferences. I can't take that and put it towards infrastructure if the grant says you have to go to X number of conferences or put X number of mileage into your budget, whether you use it for that or not. And then the options are to give it back, which we try to never do. We try to continue to invest it into local community or reallocate it to another line item for the purpose of service delivery, unfortunately, and not for infrastructure. That was the issue with the WIC program. We did have some money that hadn't been spent down on staff salaries because we'd had some turnover, and I was very hopeful that they would cover a portion of that roof expense. And after a 9-month battle, they said, no, we're not going to do it. So we ended up having to put it back into other program delivery areas and not specifically into actual physical infrastructure.
Any other questions? Mr. Curry?
We could probably ask that of every department that's having anything done this. We didn't put money. We didn't ask the sheriff that. We didn't ask anybody else.
Well, I know, I'm just,
So I don't understand why it's being brought up.
but it's worth a try, I guess.
It is equally across the board.
If by some miracle something comes along, I can guarantee you we'll be first in line to apply for it. I mean, we write anywhere from 8 to 15 grants a year. So I'm always writing a grant. Can't even think of a time in the last 5 years that I haven't had a grant going on my computer top. So if we are able to come across something that will cover that, and I share your frustration, I would like to be able to to bring even more money in to add to the ARPA money that we were so lucky to receive here locally. But I have not come across anything. And in talking to colleagues who have had building expansions with the same issues that we're running into here, they've run into the same brick wall, unfortunately.
Any other questions or comments? Anything else to share?
No, but that was more than 2 minutes, Tammy, sorry.
So did well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mill.
Big trouble.
We have the GIS budget presentation 2025.
I said, I don't really have much. It's about the same. I don't see anything real major going on this year. I think the only thing is there's a few things that went up mainly more for inflation than anything else. And that's like, what did I have? Like software licenses, I may end up having to get another license. I'm working with Grant from the city to see if we won't have to, but we put that in there just in case I might need it. Plus I haven't gotten their new estimate yet for next year, so I'm not sure. They tend to like to raise, Esri tends to like to raise their software prices like everyone else does. That's about all I think I have in here. That went up more, or just office supplies, the expenses, my toners and everything for my huge plotter seem to be getting more and more expensive. So that's about all I have that I think is sticking out here.
Just make one comment.
Okay, Ms. Tobin.
And the revenues here, I like to be conservative, so we budgeted lower. Your GIS fees are based on recordings. It's $18 per recording. We have not changed that amount since its inception in 2006, I believe, somewhere in that area. And we're fine with it. This fund has the balance to support it. So a year like this doesn't bother me. I mean, there's the ebbs and flows with the recordings, so we deal with it.
Anybody else have any questions, guys? I would assume, just like Ms. Mill, have you looked into, or Ms. Tobin, any funds that the GIS?
I haven't personally. I can say I haven't, so.
I don't know. I'm just looking for anything we can get, so.
Yeah.
We haven't, just because there was some discussion of possibly needing some of these funds for our mapping in one of the future years. So I haven't wanted to tap into it too much. And this fund is helping pay for the new aerials that we're getting a substantial amount of that. So we haven't, but if it came down to it, we could look.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Thank you.
Tammy.
On to the fiscal year 2025 Highway Department budget presentation, Mr. Crone.
So, like most of you are aware, we have three levy funds and then the MFT in our budget. MFT is a direct pass through from basically pump state to us. So there's really not a lot of local control on that. So we've got, for our levies, we got the highway, bridge, and matching. So I am, as many of you are aware, over the past decade, the highway funds have kind of gone down while general fund has gone up, and we're trying to balance that back out a little bit over time. So we are asking that to kind of get restored slowly. So we are asking the highway fund levy to increase from 840,000 to 900,000 this year. As far as expenses go on there, I'll just go through these if anybody wants to stop me or how you want to handle that, but I'll just touch on the major items. The wages, I did do a 3% increase. We have a union contract that's expiring this year. So we should be starting talks on that here within the next month or two. So that's unknown at this point. Those wages are for all staff members except for myself. I get my salary comes through 50% federal funds and 50% motor fuel tax, state motor fuel tax funds. So those wages you see on there are for all others at the highway department. There is one individual at the highway department that I do have as a initiative. My administrative assistant, I'm asking that she gets the she has demonstrated a lot of gains and she's at 1687 and I'm looking at a merit increase to 1787. So she's a 30-hour week employee with no benefits. And I think 1787 is based on her increases over the last year, she's I think that's a deserved increase. So that's within the budget that I'm proposing tonight. And that is one of our initiatives. And then jumping back over the highway fund expenses. So that's the wages. Pretty much everything is in line. There's some minor increases. The big thing I wanted to touch on real quick is the vehicles. That's the big dollar amount. So the last couple of years, we've gotten 2 new tandem trucks. Based on COVID supply chain issues, we were pretty fortunate to have that happen. Now I'm coming to you again tonight to get a third one, which is very kind of unprecedented in the highway department. We generally don't do back to back to back. But in this case, the reason I'm doing that is there's new EPA DEF requirements that are coming out for the fuel emissions or for the diesel fuel emissions. So I'm trying to stay ahead of that. And you don't ever want to be the first guy to get a piece of equipment with new standards, new emission changes. So we've already got enough issues with our existing ones, and there's a case to be had to try to get stuff without the new emissions in it because it's just a pain in the butt. So I won't go on that too much further. But so that's $290,000 part of the vehicles, and then we've got a 1-ton truck and a light duty truck in there as well. Equipment, we've got a mower, so that's our light duty mower. We got a tractor and attachments. Those items have not changed dollar wise, but we are doing some additional equipment replacement. Again, this is all part of our proposed budget, and I support all of these expenses. On the bridge levy, we are asking that to increase from 160,000 to 230,000. This is one that I think is probably out of all of our levies, that's probably the most underfunded versus the need. And so I'm really trying to increase this one back up. We have been, as far as cash flow goes, we've got good balances in it, but we're spending far more than what we generate in this account. So I'm trying to, as our balance comes down, I'm trying to increase our levy back up. Fortunately enough, our balance hasn't gone down too quickly because we do subsidize this with a lot of, we've been very fortunate to get selected on a lot of grants for our bridges. So it hasn't gone down too quickly, so that's a good thing. So hopefully we can stabilize off here real shortly. Next year's bridges, I'm hoping to do stone quarry. There's a box culvert that's, it's like 35 feet. Box culvert that actually qualifies as a structure based on its width. And so we're hoping to get that done next year. Woodstock is on the table. I don't think it's going to happen based on almost weekly conversations with Springfield. I don't think that's going to happen next year, but we're pushing for it. So that's a possibility. We do have a grant for that. So this would just be matching funds. And then we've got two township bridges, North Boone School and Shattuck Road Bridge that are slated to go either next year or the year after. And we do a match on those. Usually it's a 10%. County puts in 10%, township puts in 10%, 80% is through a township bridge program fund that's outside of our control again. And then the rest would be for culverts. So the motor fuel tax, the expenses on there, and this is, I guess the sheriff and the health department had a lot better sales pitch for their buildings because most of our highway department building is coming out of our funds. I'm not as good of I guess I haven't been as aggressive with trying to seek funds for our building, but we've been looking at building a new building to replace our old county farm milking barn that we store our tractors in that is weight posted. So it's really something that for safety reasons, we do need to get replaced. We did all of the groundwork or the civil engineering work, storm sewer and site excavation and foundation or building of the building pad. We've done that already. We've got maybe a little bit more work to do, but we're close. So I am putting it in the budget for 2.2 million. So that's a big initiative that we have on here. The 2.2 million coming out of motor fuel tax. I've already talked to IDOT about the paperwork and getting a informal agreement to proceed with that. So I will have to do a lot more paperwork to get that through, but that is a real possibility of that funding. Certainly we'll try to get, I've actually applied for other funds. I tried to call it a electronic recycling building at one point, tried to get EPA funds and, I've tried different things, but so far no success. Anyway, so that is one of our bigger initiatives. Motor fuel tax, the other big expense that we'll be doing next year is Garden Prairie Road. We'll be hopefully widening Garden Prairie Road and resurfacing that from, probably have to go on both sides of the bridges. For some reason that the bridge over the Kishwaukee at Garden Prairie is, the approaches have sunk over time. I didn't build that bridge, but I don't understand that one because we've already fixed it once in my tenure. I've been here 8 years now, and so it's sunk on both sides. So anyway, we'll start at that bridge, work our way north. Bonus Township will also be doing their section. So we'll be going all the way up to Orth Road. So I think that concludes through the real kind of overview on everything. I think I have 4 initiatives out there. One initiative is the building that I touched on MFT, the county administrative assistant going from 1687 to 1787. And then the 2 initiatives I did talk about was county engineer salary. I requested a 6% merit and market review increase. It's not really much different than what I requested last year and was denied. So we don't probably need to go into that too much further, but it's the exact same thing. And then the 4th item was brought up a while back on getting a new person to do kind of a liaison to communicate with members of the public when we do different tasks out there. So that new position is something that is not, the administration did not put my requested increase in the budget, nor did I put the new technician in the budget. The other 2 initiatives, the administrative assistant is in the budget proposed, and as well as the buildings in the proposed budget. So that's real quick and fast lay of the land. I'm available. Any questions?
Questions, discussion, Mr. Crowe? Mr. Lawson?
Yeah, just one. the last item that you were covering, the new person, that's a part-time position.
That would be a part-time position that is not proposed in this budget, but I certainly can add it if there's further discussion to add it. That would be a part-time position. I propose $35 an hour, 1,000 hours a week. If the board feels, I don't necessarily support it. It was brought up before. I don't necessarily feel the needs there. I think that what we do is adequate. I'd rather use the money other places, but however, I'm more focused on product and service. So if we feel like we're not providing, we're not communicating well, and we need to have more handholding and more discussions with residents as we do work within the right of way, that's what that position would fulfill is communications.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mule, if I could do this quick, Erica. On what Mr. Logsdon was just inquiring about, in the description over the requested program, it says a board member. So you're saying a county board member?
It was at a public meeting. Yeah, public meeting. It was suggested that, I think it was when we had our rumble strip discussion, and somebody said that we should be communicating better with and I said I would add it to the budget. So that's what I'm doing now is bringing that up.
And what are you talking about this person would do? Go to people's houses?
Yeah, they would write letters and go to people's houses and discuss work that's being done within the right of way. Like I said, I don't necessarily support it, but I mean, it's something I'm proposing. It's not in the budget, but it's open for discussion.
Mr. Mueller?
I was just thinking with all the future road development that maybe we should look at putting something in, because you are going from Town Hall Road. I mean, there's a lot of properties you're going to be cutting through, and there's going to be, look at the little bit of flack that we had with the rumble switch or strips. I think you're going to get a lot more flack with, the roads and the easements and all that stuff. It might be something to look into.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because federal money is involved in that project, I've got to do far more than what this person would even do. I have to go through and that's part of the reason why I haven't contacted all the property owners yet. I have to actually, as soon as I make the initial contact, I have to document the date that I make that contact, who I talk to. I have to document the heck out of the process. And because federal money is involved, I have to go through and I have to hire a certified appraiser reviewer, and then I have to actually hire a negotiator. Even if everybody's in agreement with, hey, I just bought this land for 10,000 an acre, I'm going to sell it to you for 10,000 an acre, I still have to go through the full process with federal money involved. So in that particular case, there's going to be a lot of communication, a lot of documentation, and that's forced upon me. So I think this position that's being discussed is more aligned along the lines of our maintenance rather than our capital expansions. So our capital expansion, especially something like this, is going to be dictated by funding sources. But for maintenance, this would be for like we're mowing your right away in front of your house, or we're going to be cutting down that tree in front of your house, or we're putting rumble strips on the road in front of your house. We're even repaving the road in the shoulder in front of your house. We have had those requests before. And so I'm not saying it's unwarranted, but it's certainly something that, I would defer to the board on whether they want to go that far, because once I open that can of worms and start, I would say out of maybe 100 properties that we go by and do activities on, we might get one quick call that takes 30 seconds. We answer the call and we're done. If we reach out to those 100, we'll probably have 95 returns and requests for something different. And then that's going to open and I'm not able to handle that myself, but that's going to open up a lot of other questions and comments. They're like, oh, you're taking that tree down. Well, can you take this one down too? And then we got to, so I think that's where the person would be needed. We do typically try to work with, all residents and most of the easements are pretty by prescription. So they own to the center of the line of the road. So we do work with them on, whether it's, doing ditch cleaning, moving topsoil, try to return it back to the closest neighbor, removal. We try to, if they're willing to take the wood, they can have the wood, different things like that we do and communicate. But once we, do that across the board on a bigger scale, then, that's really going to take more than what we have.
Ms. Patterson.
Justin, can I clarify that you're not in favor of this, correct?
Yeah, I don't support it. I didn't put it in the budget, but I'm open to it.
And if I can make another comment, I think that the process that we have is how the process is supposed to work. The people were upset. They had an opportunity to speak. We heard them and we voted on that. I think allocating money to like further that and create more issues down the road, I think is the wrong path to take. We communicate with our people. And they have the ability to tune in here. They have the ability to get on the board docs. Everybody has the ability to know what is going on in this community if they want to engage. I'm not in favor of sending out letters. I don't know of any other community that is doing that. I am totally on board with the way that it happened. I was very appreciative that the people came in, and I think we acted the way that we were supposed to act under those circumstances. And I think at this point they're happy. Maybe things are going to change in that down the road, but I just can't see justifying hiring somebody to send out letters and to hold people's hands. I think it's going to create more problems.
And let me add a little more background to that so that when the milling or so what occurred on those rumble strips is I laid out those rumble strips, I think on a Wednesday for a Friday planned milling. And after I laid those out, I got a call at my office and they said, hey, it looks like you're going to be doing something on our road, and they suspected rumble strips. And I said, yeah, I'm going to be putting rumble strips on. They're very displeased with that, and they vocalized that. And I basically said that was my decision. I made that. And they said, well, what's our recourse? And I said, well, you're good timing because Thursday night there's a meeting. I'm planning on milling those Friday. I can still make that change. And I suggested that they come to the meeting, and then I agree 100%. The process works 99% of the time. And we could add, another half staff member to improve it, but I think 99% might get to 99.5%. That 0.5% increase may not be worth the 0.5%.
Thank you.
Mr. Logson?
Yeah, it sounds like you're already like shouldering no pun intended, you're shouldering the lion's share of that. And my fear would be like this person would be less of a communicator, more of like a PR guy. So I don't think we need that, especially to Alyssa's point. Side, I completely agree with you.
Mr. Thornberry?
Mr. Cronin is doing what he was asked to do by this board member. But me. Board members said we needed more communication between their department and the public. All he's doing is putting it out there. That's his way to see it. He doesn't agree with it, but this is what they asked him to do. Whether we vote for it or not is entirely up to us.
Ms. Branson?
I'm the one that made the request that the neighbors adjacent property owners get notified if you're going to put rundle strips in. Now, in my opinion, that's not something where you're sending out a tremendous amount of letters. It could easily become a form letter where you just, cut it, put in the location and just send it out to those few people. It's not something that's going out to a lot of people. And I don't think we really need a staff member for it. I just assume that Justin would him or his secretary would just do it.
And I normally do, I'm sorry. I normally do that on larger impact items. However, like I said, I did have the contractor coming in. We had an accident, a week before. So timing on this one didn't quite work out. But normally when I have a high impact project, I do try to send out notifications. But I don't have a standard policy to always, because I've had actually the same year, this summer, I had a horse owner that didn't like our paving operation and wasn't notified because we had a paving operation near their farm that had horses. And they said that it caused colic or it caused some kind of condition to the horses. And I said, I apologized and all that. I said, but we are doing a maintenance activity within the right of way. So then it comes to the point where, I don't really know where I should stop because I do get, I get requests and I typically handle those on an as needed basis. but that's why, I presented this in the way I did, is because I will get the same type of situation with the rumble strips, with the people wanting to be notified about trees getting removed, widening of roads, resurfacings of roads, even mowing sometimes. I've gotten this summer I got probably a dozen calls on mowing. And so those, there's, I guess the line, I've already drawn the line, but if we want to redraw the line, I'm open to that, based on the board's suggestions.
I got you.
Riley?
Input on this, Justin? No. Put it in the back burner unless you can come up with something else that you really need that person to do, I think.
We'll try to create maybe a more formal internal policy, and then it can be reviewed later.
Okay.
And any other discussion? Anybody else have any questions, comments at this time? Okay, am I seeing it? Thank you, Mr. Crowe. We're on to 9.5. I need a motion for this.
I think it's just discussion tonight, correct? Ms. Tobin? Yeah, action discussion.
Discussion. At the discussion on special use permit 14-2024.
It's supposed to be a motion.
108XX Cemetery Road, DG Capron Solar LLC.
Got a
And
motion, Mr. Curry?
it's not on here that there's supposed to be a motion, it's just saying.
Right.
Action discussion.
Good with it then?
Doesn't say.
See what Tricia says.
Ms. Smith, what do we need?
Doesn't say discussion, it doesn't say motion. It's not gonna be a final vote anyway, so it's fine to do the motion. Just make sure that going forward that you have.
Okay, there's a motion to approve special use permit 14-2024, 108XX Cemetery Road, DG Capron Solar LLC. But made by Mr. Curry and seconded by somebody, Mr. Longstreet. Okay,
Good.
Mr. Logston, second. Is that Mr. Welty?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My recollection is this is the one that the ZBA turned down on a 5-0 vote. I don't know why we would want to have a motion to approve it unless I've got the wrong item.
That's the process that you have to do to discuss it to go forward. You can still deny it.
Yeah, just like any other motion.
Right, yes.
I think we just forgot some words in the,
Yeah, I must have been.
All motions are considered
okay.
In the affirmative.
It's been properly motioned and seconded, so we'll open it up for discussion.
Discussion, Ms. Rouse.
Sure. Thank you. This special use permit requested, is it going? Thank you. Is for a solar energy project, greater than 1 megawatt, located in the unincorporated Boone Township, north side of Cemetery Road, east of the village of Capron. It's approximately 27.8 acres with the proposed, site.
Jesse, your mic is cutting in and out.
It died. It's the battery. That was only designed for the meeting to go till 8:13.
She wore it out at the ZBA.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, there we go. So, again, the subject property is approximately 27.8 acres with the proposed site on 19.2 acres. The PV panels are proposed on a tracking system utilizing a single axis. The applicant is looking to begin construction in 12/4, and the applicant has not indicated the full tilt height, but has stated that it will be below the maximum allowed 20 feet. The zoning board of appeals found the proposal does not meet all of the requirements of the zoning code, reviewed the hearing factors as drafted and presented by staff, and the presentation by applicant testimony regarding the project and public input. The ZBA accepted the findings of facts as drafted and presented by staff and adopted them with a vote of 5-0 in favor of the findings, and the special use proposal 2024 was recommended for denial by the Boone County Zoning Board of Appeals. With a failed motion to approve 0 to 5. Public hearing, staff had made a presentation, including the description of the project, the zoning districts around the area, as well as concerns with the project adjacent municipal boundary and the village of Cape Breton. Staff noted that the village's opposition to the project, as well as the concern for permitting the solar use on a parcel identified in the future residential development within Boone County. The Conservation District had reviewed the request and indicated the listed plantings and practices in the application had not been listed. The applicant has agreed to coordinate with the Boone County Conservation District. Boone County Soil and Water Conservation District conducted a natural resource inquiry and indicated a favorable opinion on the proposed land use change, noting that their opinion was due to the location and the quality of the soils on the parcels. Determinations made by the Soil and Water Conservation District whether to take the use of property out of agriculture production was based on the factors that they describe in their full report. The LE score was 81.888. In the memo, I've provided the hearing factors as well as the findings of facts that were adopted by the Zoning Board of Appeals. There were letters and emails submitted for the record in opposition to the project. Mark Spring was the representative of the owner, testified to the development, stating that the parcel of interest is due to its proximity to the substation. Amongst other comments. Testimony and presentation were given by the project, including a PowerPoint presentation. Public testimony in opposition to the project, Stephen Bank was sworn in and testified that he is the village president of Cape Breton, indicating that the village's opposition to the project. Brett Mueller was sworn in. He indicated his concern with the project, explaining the details of the correspondence with the solar company on the matters of the parcel. And finally, the Zoning Board of Appeals motion to adopt the findings of facts is presented, and the motion to approve the application subject to the conditions as drafted, and the motion failed with a vote of 0 to 5. The applicant is here. I'm not sure if they want to present the PowerPoint presentation is on board doc, so I'm not sure what the status.
Okay, would the applicant like to come and speak?
Nathan Ogle, 504 North State Street, Belvedere, Illinois. I'm not going to bore you with the whole PowerPoint presentation. It is very similar to all the ones I'm sure you've seen before, saying the benefits of solar and the community solar project. This is not evidentiary in nature, as you well know. So let's cut to the chase. This property was previously passed for solar in this exact or a lesser amount of megawatts at this exact location, in this almost exact configuration. If anything, it's less. So unlike the other 3 pending lawsuits, one, which was before the law changed for that created state standards. The second one, I think, was within the 180 days. So it's arguably still the old law. Your third one is that I think that one might have even had a staff approval and then a denial. I can't remember. But that one's under the new statute. That would be the one that would be hypothetically in the equivalent of this. But that being said, my clients for the applicant is, I think, categorically different from any of those in that it was previously passed by this board not that long ago. And the findings of fact, yeah, I understand as soon as a finding of fact under your current, ordinance mechanism is not meant, the body before this is not supposed to give a favorable recommendation, full stop, right? Except the difference is, and I guess this is where the rubber's going to meet the road, is, and I've been sitting in here for many times over the years listening to the struggle, right? When the state tried to basically rip control out of local control for those standards. I understand that. But at the end of the day, the good old state government did. So it's going to boil down to 55 ILCS 5/5/12020, subsection B. You guys get to set standards, but it can't be, you guys have ad nauseum beat this over your head, I'm sure. But the standards may include all the requirements specified in this section, but may not include requirements for commercial wind energy facilities or commercial solar facilities that are more restrictive than specified in this section. So the question is going to become whether or not two things. One, whether or not you can have passage of almost an identical special use permit allowing the solar previously at the same location, and you guys voting different at this exact same location this time around, categorically different. I don't think you should step into it. I think you should pass it for that reason. Two, the impetus of the reasoning behind not meeting the findings of fact are almost all exclusively centered around Capron's objection, and Capron being an extra jurisdictional territory within 1.5 miles. There's no annexation agreement. And as a property-minded person, if you meet a standard, and where that state standard is, now more objective, hypothetically, I think this is a more restrictive standard by throwing in an objection through a municipality when that municipality doesn't have standing to object. They don't have an annexation agreement. They could have jurisdictional authority if they did have an annexation agreement, but they don't. And you can't force anyone to unless they're totally surrounded. There was testimony given that no one's expressed interest in the 34 years of ownership of developing that parcel in question. So all that being said, I'll be attempting to talk to each and every one of you between now and the final vote date, but I'm just trying to bring to your attention the differences compared to the other cases and or your other solar projects that might come before you. And that one, this one was passed before, and two, throwing in municipalities' objection is more restrictive than what is in the state statute, full stop. That being said, I like solar. You guys have passed some solar projects. Unfortunately, your current comprehensive plan, I don't think, talks about any. Oh, go ahead, Jess.
You got the mic.
Oh, sorry.
I can wait.
Okay. I don't think the current comprehensive plan really talks about solar in any meaningful way, aside from you can put it in all of these zoning jurisdictions through a special use permit. That may change on the task force and the new stuff being put in place, but these are all the interesting legal issues that I'm sorry are thrust upon you, and I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts?
Yes, I just wanted to point out that the comprehensive plan indicates the site as residential within the Boone County portion of the comprehensive plan. So that is where most of this is based off of. And aside from the parcel being adjacent to municipal boundary and infrastructure adjacent to the parcel.
Anybody else have any questions or discussion on this here? Mr. Thornberry?
Yeah, I've read this stuff. And it doesn't look like anybody wants this thing, except for the person that owns the land, maybe. I don't know. According to the reports that are in here, it doesn't have any advantages to the city of Capron or the municipality of Capron. And just about everybody in the area doesn't have any, they don't want it over there because it's going to destroy the area that they have come to love. That's why they moved there. So unless somebody can show me a reason, a logical reason, and other than the state, because contrary to popular belief, I spent 6 months in 2012 going through these educational meetings established by the state back in 2012. And unless they've made a law that I'm not aware of, 90% of everything, they want the state and your counties to have so much renewable energy in them. It doesn't say anywhere that you have to do this or you have to do that. It gave you some guidelines of what they expect to happen. Doesn't say anywhere in what they want you to do that you have to do this. It says you cannot deny solar in your county or wind for that matter. And we're not denying it. And we've proven that by approving a number of wind farms. But nobody wants this one. Why would we okay it? And it has no positive effect on the community that they want to put it in, according to what's in here. I can see why it was denied before. And if the vote comes to me, I'm gonna say no again.
Mr. Mueller?
So I did testify at the ZBA and I need to abstain from voting on this because I have ran this ground for 15 years. It's been on a verbal agreement and stuff with the Brown family, but I would like to read my testimony.
I would just comment that you shouldn't participate in the discussion if you're going to recuse yourself from the vote.
Okay.
If you wanted to explain why you were recusing, that's fine. But you did testify at the ZBA where everyone here would have privy to that information and that would be available to watch, or I guess listen to, and there's a summary of that.
Okay.
So would you like to
That's
say
all.
anything about you're just recusing yourself from voting?
That's all I can say, according to Ms. Smith.
Mr. Chairman?
I'll add two other people are Mr.
Does Brent have to abstain from this vote?
Yes, I am.
He has to abstain from this vote, yeah.
You know, we have a ZBA to do the review and to listen to all of this. And I've reviewed their information and I agree with their findings of facts. I cannot support this project.
Mr. Wiltie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, there are like 17, if I counted them right, attachments to this particular item. And I cannot recall, what year was this approved initially?
Ms. Roberts?
2018.
2018, okay. It's interesting that the various factors we usually use, including those under 2.73, that both the staff and the ZBA were finding a lot of aspects of those ordinance sections not met. I think I'll reserve any further comments tonight, but I would like to ask that, well, I'm going to dig into this a little bit in the 2018 thing. I would like to get the minutes and just take a look at them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Is there any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Wait a minute, why don't you clarify what you're voting for?
You're voting to pass?
Right. An aye vote would be yes to the motion that has been brought forward. A no would be no. All right.
So we understand this is to pass the special use permit for 108 XX Cemetery Road in Cape. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
No.
Motion fails. Okay. And we'll have this on the agenda at the full county board on the 19th.
Yes.
September.
Could I request a brief?
Yeah, I promise Sherry, we take a little bit, let's take a 5-minute break. Everybody be back at 9:35, please.
35?
8:35.
8:35, thank you, an hour. Lisa. I knew that didn't sound right.
You sleeping by 9.
Oh, I know.
Better be on my phone.
You.
Hi, Larson, if you want to go ahead and continue, I think everybody's back.
Okay, we're going on to item number 9.6. Just go right for a motion to approve this one.
Yep.
I need a motion to approve special use permit 15-234-103XX US Route 20 Illinois Solar Garden Prairie Project 1 LLC Silverhorn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Thornberry, seconded by Ms. Branson. Jessica Roberts.
Yes, thank you. The special use 15-2024 is a request for solar energy greater than 1 megawatt. The location is in unincorporated Bonus Township on the north side of the US Route 20, south of Lawrenceville Road. And the subject property is approximately 75 acres with a site area proposed at 50 acres. The applicant was previously permitted and currently under an special use that's been extended since the original approval in 2018. Due to a number of delays and extensions, the applicant has chosen to submit a new application which meets the current Boone County requirements. The applicant's current schedule calls for the project to begin construction starting late fall of 2024, continuing through the spring and summer of 25. The zoning board of appeals found the proposal meets the requirements of the zoning codes, reviewed the hearing factors as presented by staff, and accepted the findings of facts as presented with a vote of 5-0 in favor. And was recommended for approval by the Boone County Zoning Board of Appeals with a vote of 5-0, subject to the drafted 18 conditions. Any staff presented, including a description of the project. The Boone County Conservation District reviewed the request. Boone County Soil and Water Conservation District conducted a natural resource inventory, and their report indicated an unfavorable opinion due to the permanent displacement of prime agriculture that is necessary for the implementation of the project. The board indicated they encourage preservation of prime farmland when practical and feasible, but the LE score was at 81.9. In this memo, I've included the hearing factors that were presented, as well as the findings of facts that were adopted by the Zoning Board of Appeals. In addition to the presentation by the planner, testimony and presentation was given by the representative of the project. The current property owner, Mary Brubeck, testified to the project and the parcel of land. She indicated that the solar property does not support the farm production and indicated that the size of the implement is too large for the small acreage. Public testimony was given by Roxanne Wearmouth. She was sworn in and indicated her opposition with the project as an adjacent property owner, and she has concern with a number of solar projects in the Garden Prairie area. She stated that there are many numbers of solar farms in the area, and she's concerned with the area becoming solar city. In conclusion, the Board of Appeals voted on the findings of facts and adopted them as presented with a vote of 4-0. And the Zoning Board of Appeals voted to recommend approval of the special use 15-2024 with the 18 conditions as presented with a vote of 3-1. I do know that the applicants are in attendance. They've also provided hard copy of the PowerPoint presentation as well as the property owner letter that I placed at your desks.
Mr. Curry.
Yeah, we've seen this and Steve issue of the property owner as to this delay. We debated this how long ago? Approved it
earlier.
So yeah, a year. I'm not, you guys know how I feel on this. This is one of those projects that the lease score doesn't reflect, I think, the property that it's sitting on. It's one of those that I support. I supported then after listening to testimony and investigating a little bit more. I don't like punishing a landowner for things that are outside theirs, problems that come up that are outside their control. So this is one of those projects that I would be in support of.
And Mr. Thornberry.
Last time we voted on this, I voted against it. But after doing a lot more research, looking into this a lot more, I'm like Mr. Curry, I would support this.
Just
Mr. Rennie?
Just real quick, there hasn't been a lot of, or any really changes in the design of what you were planning on doing a year ago, correct? You're just different, the way you've approached it at this point, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, that's what I thought. Yep.
Would the rep from the applicant like to speak?
Step forward if you would, give your name and address for the record, please, and go from there. All right. Oh, whoops. Just give him the yellow mic.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
All right. Right.
Yeah.
Christian Schlesinger. I'm a senior project manager for the applicant, which is Forefront Power. I live at 301 Washington Street in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania. I also have with me, I'll let Matt introduce himself.
Matt Fulbert, Westwood Professional Services. My address is 488 Paposia Avenue, Lander, Wyoming. And I'm here as their consultant.
So if the board members are interested, I could walk you through this PowerPoint.
Mr. Walber.
Yeah, I've reviewed the PowerPoint, don't need that. My only question was around the decommissioning. Says there you comply with the Boone County zoning ordinance, so that is remained the same as last time, is that, I guess that's the question.
The commissioning plan has not changed.
Not changed. Thank you.
And no offense, I know it's a beautiful PowerPoint, but
Yeah, no worries. I just want to make sure that if everybody has all the information they're looking for
If you
tonight.
could just touch on it's basically the same as it was presented before, but it's just updated a little to follow the new county code, I believe.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. And really we were pretty much in compliance anyway, so there's really been no modifications. The main thing was we ran into some delays with the railroad crossing agreements that are all in place now. And with those taking a little bit of time, we couldn't get construction started in time to have it finished by February of 2025. So now we're ready to start. We just need this extended to keep the project moving. And we made the decision to do a new application mainly because I was here last fall when we did the extension, and it seemed like there was some hesitancy from some of the board members about another extension. You know, they had made a comment on a new application, maybe more appropriate. So when we got to the point where we knew that we weren't going to be done before the current one expired, we made the decision to do a new application, to kind of to take the board's comments into consideration.
that doesn't happen very often. Thank you.
No, but it's nice.
I wouldn't listen to it either.
Mr. Mueller?
So I'm still gonna be voting no against it. I'm a huge opponent towards not solar. It takes up too much ground. The straight current that they produce, the substations can't handle it. They say they can, but I'll let my livestock decide that. It'll be a fate to no end. But when I did have to back in the 2002, I was gonna add on to our barn, but I had to go to my neighbors and they had to sign off on it, a 1,500-foot setback. And I think this is the only project where there is no other neighbors within 1,500 feet. So you guys are lucky on this one. So.
The neighbor to the south is closer, but there is existing screening in the railroad tracks, yeah. And the neighbor to the west is like 1,650 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 9.7, Belvedere Township traffic accidents, big discussion. We got a little.
Yeah,
Mr. Curry.
I felt like this agenda wasn't long enough, so I figured I'd try to put some more stuff on here. I asked Mr. Dixon and Mr. Crone. I get, and I'm sure you guys do too, this corridor along Spring Creek, Riverside. It's to me, in my knowledge, it's complete complacency and not on the job or I guess, lack of work that our people are doing, but we are just getting nailed on these intersections. And to appease those who have repeatedly voiced their concerns, and rightfully so, I'd ask that, we'd come up with a plan, because Spring Creek, Olson, Shaw, Squaw Prairie, they've just, I honestly don't know what else we can do. They put blinking lights up there. They put cross traffic doesn't stop. I feel like people look at their phones, they assume it's a four-way and they pull out. And so there are a couple intersections that I'd love to be four ways, Caledonia and Orth, just because that hill, trying to pull up that hill when people are going 45 across north-south makes it hard. And if somebody doesn't grab traction, they're getting up into that intersection a little late. And Squaw Prairie and Beaver Valley, but I feel like there's just a ton of accidents lately. Maybe you guys are the professionals and tell me to shut up and everything's good, then I'll believe you.
Everybody's entitled their opinion. We do get calls about Spring Creek Road. There's a lot of accidents out there. Unfortunately, most of the accidents at those intersections are driver distraction, people not paying attention, not even stopping or stopping and pulling out, not seeing other vehicles coming. The traffic on those roads are all traveling way too fast. The speed limit on Spring Creek Road is 45. However, we're out there, myself and our crews are out there, a lot, working, doing road work or whatever, and we see the cars all the time. And we're to the point now where we, like, when we're all even doing patchwork or any kind of road work, we have another vehicle following us behind because to slow traffic down, because the cars are coming at us so fast. Sheriff Young made a good point earlier with the fact that he's shorthanded. That would be a wonderful thing out there, would be having more traffic control they could write tickets out there all day long and all night long. I can promise you that from what I see every day. Like I said, the distracted driving, we have accidents at four-way stops. We have several intersections with four-way stops, and there's accidents at those. We have several intersections, at four-way stops. And we have accidents at those all the time. Just, again, distracted driving, people not paying attention. They just blow through them and somebody's not paying attention, going the other way and really thinks the person's going to stop and they don't. And the prime one is the one they talked about earlier up at Hunter and Capron Road. That's a four-way stop. And there's unfortunately a lady fighting for her life right now because of that, of an accident that happened there recently. We'll go into possible solutions. We have possible solutions. We do have some intersections that don't have the blinking lights on them yet. I'm more than happy to put those up there if it could possibly help. Those are not that terribly expensive. However, they are a maintenance item. We have to maintain them. They're solar during the day. They run off battery at night. We have to change batteries in them twice a year to put up to keep them going. I could look into possibly getting the bigger sign, and the signs that are on there now that say cross traffic does not stop are a certain size. We could possibly get bigger ones. Maybe people would read them if they saw bigger signs. I don't know. We do go check the signs. They are all high-vis signs that reflect off your lights right. They are on a rotation to get switched out every so often because the sun fades them and so on and so forth. Get weather related, get vandalism, whatever. We've talked about rumble strips have been brought up. I know if we put rumble strips out in those areas anywhere, you would get nonstop complaints because there's way too many homeowners and subdivisions out in those areas. You would not hear the end of it if we put rumble strips out there because of people not appreciating the noise. Oh, what else do I got wrote down? I tried to do some notes here so I didn't sound too stupid up here. I mean, again, there's, that's about all I got, but like I said, we try our best to do the, best we can to try and keep traffic under control. But again, a lot of it spins back to, just driver error. And, we can try, like I said, we can try a few more things and see if it helps. I'm more than welcome to do that. It's up to, Justin and I can talk about it, and if it's worth doing, I'll gladly do it. It's not that expensive to do, and we can go on from there. But anybody's got any questions, I'm more than happy to try and answer.
Mr. Curry?
First of all, I think you guys have done an awesome job. I see you guys out there working your ass off all the time. I see the signs. I'm also not staring at my phone or, I pay attention to the road. I have kids that are about to drive or are driving right now that, just like many of us, I have one that has been driving for 5 years. So it scares the heck out of me. But also you got to follow the signs. The signs are there. I don't know if we can request the speed limit displays, so it shows the speed that just says slow down type thing. Half the people don't know if they're monitored, half the, other just kind of don't care. But
there is the portable speed limit sign that they do pull around and park in different places.
Yeah.
I know they put them out there for a few days at a time. But people look at that once and then never see it again once they drive by them. Justin was talking about getting we're possibly going to get some signs that tell you how fast you're going as well. I know he's working on getting those.
Yeah, we actually have a grant. I'll just add a little bit. I concur with everything Mike said. Just to add a couple things. So that we did get an SS4A grant, Safe Routes for All program grant, federal fund, to buy and place, it was 10 or 12 radar speed signs. So they'll, have a speed limit sign, standard speed limit sign, and then a radar speed limit sign that shows your speed. And then if you're going over a certain speed, it'll, say flash and slow down. So we will have those, and we'll have those on a rotation, and there'll also be a data logger in there too. So the speed will be recorded on there. And then, so we can give that to the sheriff. It'll be uploaded on thumb drive and give the sheriff, and he can identify that, hey, this certain location at 4:45 every day, somebody's going 70 miles an hour. So we should, so things like that will help enforcement and should hopefully help keep the ambient speed down to a reasonable level. Part of that SS4A grant that we're in is among other things, we are also working on a safety action plan. And that's currently going on. I just had another meeting today with it. We have had multiple public meetings with it. There's a link on the website, the little green or the little blue thing up there. That's, if you click on that, there's a link that the public can put any kind of feedback on any road. There's a map. You click on it, you go to your map and say, hey, this, yeah. So she clicked on it, and so that's brings up our Boone County Traffic Safety Action Plan. I'm not big on action plan, or I'm not big on plans. I'm big on action. But the nice thing about this action plan is there's just a boatload of money from the feds that are going in towards this. We got grants for, like I said, the radar signs. We were actually buying a truck through there with a attenuator bumper. It's amazing how much money's being thrown around because it is a big problem. So yeah, if you click on that map, any location, it'll bring up like a little toggle, and then you can enter, say, hey, this intersection is, so there's already quite a few on there, but it'll give you the opportunity to make statements in there. Those statements go into our action plan. The more we have at certain areas or more issues, those are part of the action plan. So then if we choose to take action on that, if it's in our action plan, then we are eligible for federal money to implement that if it is consistent with policy and practices and all that. So, that's why, I'm all for this program, is because this is the method to not only solve problems, but it's a method to fund the problems through federal money. One other thing I just want to mention, and part of that, I
many of you may not have seen it, but I uploaded a document on there. There's like, I don't know, 12 pages or so. The first 3 pages are all part of that action plan, and that's the stuff we're looking at. There's countermeasures, there's safety strategies. Those are things that we're looking at implementing. The last 8 pages or so of that document I uploaded. That's the cover sheet there. So it's, those first 3 pages are all part of our Boone County specific action plan, strategies and countermeasures. And then the pages 4 through 13 are trends that we're seeing. So the reason I put those up there, I think quite often people think that this is a Boone County issue and we're just, running around wild and it's not, it's a nationwide issue. And not only that is if you look at these trends, we're actually not as bad off as other places. Not saying that we're not trying to fix or we shouldn't fix those. We should fix all problems as much as we can. However, this is unfortunately, and that's why we're getting all this federal money this is a nationwide trend and it's not going the right direction. Back in the 70s, across the United States, there was on the road fatalities. There was like 50,000. There was around 50,000 fatalities through the United States on the road. Through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, that number steadily declined. We were at about 30,000. Very good trend going down. And then after about 2000, 2010, started climbing up here. And now we're on an upward swing and we're back up to about 45,000, almost back up to 50,000 where we were back in the 70s. And, and I can go into a lot more, I know you guys want to stay here all night, but there's, a lot more safety. We have airbags, if you look at the vehicles back in the 70s versus now, certainly they were more solid, more plastic. We have higher technology to avoid fatalities. We have collision and cages and airbags and different things that help reduce those fatalities. And so, the technology is there, but our driving habits have caused a lot of this. And there's 3 primary driving habits that come out of federal studies. There's alcohol related, speed related, and safety belt usage. Those 3 items contribute to like 45% of all fatalities are contributed to one of those 3 items: alcohol, speed, or safety belt. And I wish they could, change alcohol to, since marijuana is, rapidly being used, wish they just use, drug alcohol, and then also add another one with distracted driving with, technology. I think those really need to get added. Then I think we're probably at 3/4 of 75% of the accidents are probably related to those if you were to add the distracted driving. So I just wanted to mention those. The nice, I don't know if it's nice or not, but the sheriff did mention about DUI rates, that his guys are on the high end of capturing those DUI issues. That is one in Illinois. If you look at it, roughly a third of the fatalities in Illinois are alcohol related on the road. So that's a staggering number, but it sounds like the sheriff's doing, they're doing their part on trying to reduce that. So, ultimately, with like what Mike said, we're trying to do what we can. It's really trend going the wrong way. It's not just a Boone County trend, it's nationwide. We're actively pursuing grants. Again, with these roads too, everybody, wants to have, 4-way stops at different locations and that's all great. But once you start to reduce mobility, because you got 2 things that are happening out here on our roads, you've got mobility and you've got access. I went through this talk, probably like, I don't know, 5 or 8 years ago. And so you got mobility and access. Like I-90 has high mobility. So you can get from Chicago to Rockford very quickly on I-90, high mobility, limited access. You got off ramps every, 3 to 5 miles, 10 miles. But if you're on a local road, like a township road or something like that, you got low mobility. You might have a 45, 30 mile per hour speed limit, but you have access points all over the place. You can put in driveways and all that. So your access is high, your mobility is low. So we try to keep on these roads like Poplar Grove Road, Caledonia Road, Spring Creek. Those are roads that are intended to be higher mobility, less access, so that we can get more efficient traffic. If we were to go through and say, hey, let's just throw let's put it 10 miles an hour and let's put every intersection, every driveway, put a stop sign, then we drop that mobility down, increase the access. but drop the mobility down, then you get your drivers pushed off onto other roads that are not designed or capable of handling that traffic load. And they want to go with a high mobility, if there's no impediments on those. So, and I try to cut it shorter here, but the thing that concerns me the most too, without kind of going way off topic, is the 3 roundabouts. Those are impediments. Those are reducing mobility on 76. And if we look at the other alternatives to 76, we look at Poplar Grove Road, that could be a higher mobility than 76. I would hate to have all that traffic from 76 go to Poplar Grove Road, and given our current situations at some of those intersections, that's really keeps me up at night, that could be a thing that would happen in the future. So just keep that in mind, when we're looking at some of these items. We always want to make sure that we, safety obviously is number one. I have a kid that just got a driver's license or permit, and so I'm always thinking about that as well. But we do want to make sure that we provide efficient mode of transportation. If we start to reduce our efficiency for whatever reason on roads, we're going to cause potentially bigger problems on other adjacent roadways. Same thing with Route 20. When Route 20 becomes 4-lane and they reduce the speed down to 45 miles per hour and add signals on that could push a lot of people up onto Squaw Prairie and other routes, Spring Creek. So, those kind of things we're always looking at, and considering as we put in other traffic control devices, like Mike was saying.
I totally appreciate it. I agree. I understand. And when you get those signals in, or the grants, I just want you guys to know that you're appreciated, and your work that you do is appreciated and seen. Thank you. So, and I speak your praise to everybody that does come. So
we try to, the people that call and complain, we try to give them the best, answers we can and calm them down. And, because, try and give them the best answers we can to answer their questions per se. And there's a lot of research that has to go back into these accidents. They all think that everybody thinks that the accidents happen because there's not a 4-way stop there. Well, Justin was, nice enough this summer, he got his hands on bunch of cameras and put cameras all over. We had cameras all over the place, and we had cameras at several of our intersections. And there were several accidents that were recorded at some of these intersections, and it was driver error, someone not stopping and just blowing a stop sign and somebody coming the other direction. So, there's a lot of stuff to look at that way too. You gotta go back and research all the accidents and go back and look at all the police reports of why these accidents happened, and who was it wrong, and there's many ways accidents can come up, and somebody stopping and waiting and somebody rear-ending them or something, and not anything to do with the stop signs or anything else. There's just it goes on and on, the lists of how they happen, and you got to go back and research all that and find out why they happen before you just start throwing out there that they happen because of this, that, or the other thing, and just saying we got to do this or they're not gonna happen anymore, or if you don't do this, they're not gonna happen anymore, and stuff like that. So it's
And so those cameras that Mike brought up, those are part of this grant as well. So we installed cameras throughout the county on some of our more accident-prone intersections, and we captured a couple instances where, in fact, I had provided those to the police to further do some investigation, but car didn't even slow down through these intersections. And so in those cases, obviously, I think it's distracted driving. They're on their phone and not looking up, and bad timing, and it's just a matter of, I think that's what we're happening at these 4-way stops. You got two people that are not paying attention and nailing each other, and this is a nationwide problem. I think eventually we're going to have some technology, hopefully, that will fix this for us, and hopefully when that comes, sooner than later.
I know. Okay. One more thing real quick, it's just being involved with the fire department for 35 years. I've been to hundreds and hundreds of accidents, and you hear all people saying why they did something, and it's amazing how many people have come right out and admitted that their GPS told them there isn't a stop sign there. And they just pull through these stop signs. It's, it's like, I don't get it, but it is what it is. I mean, they're just, again, it goes back to distracted driving, not paying attention because their GPS told them not to stop. They didn't stop. It's bad, but we'll do the best we can to, try and resolve some of these problems and we'll go from there.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have a comment here, but I don't know if I had mentioned this before, I don't know if anybody else has seen it, where they paint stop ahead really big on the road and stuff before stop signs. And especially at night, because it's reflective paint.
Sure.
If you're out on a dark street, that really lights it up and even if you're looking down at your phone, the road changes color and it kind of makes you look up. I'm not sure.
Absolutely, something to consider.
That's an excellent point. In fact, some of our intersections just have a stop sign. Some of them have a 24-inch white solid line one there. That's a stop bar. And then the next step would, put the word stop ahead on there. And that's, we're like we did on Squaw Prairie and Poplar Grove. We took all these steps and did all these things. And I think that is a good step that we should consider doing. That's
a possibility because the distracted driving, if you can have something that makes them look up for something, changing the color of the road kind of I believe.
Well, and if they're on a phone and they're actually not physically looking even at the road, that's where, some kind of tactile or either noise or vibration is a good way to.
But also, like I'm saying, the color of the road in our peripheral vision kind of changes. It might help. I'm not sure.
Sure. Yep.
Anybody else have any questions, Mr. Waller?
No, I second, that was a good comment, Ray. I actually saw that today in Ogle County. I think it was a road going into Highway.
Those are actually stickers you put down.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just.
But it was noticeable.
Yeah, the thermoplastic, you can melt into it and that's, a little more expensive, but certainly we can do that. The problem is they only last probably, the stop bars replaced maybe every other year or so. So it's, it's a maintenance thing, but if it changes and saves a life, it's
Saves
worth
the
it.
life.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much.
Mr. Thornberry, did you have something?
Yeah, I know you gotta have plans in order to get your money from the state and the federal governments and what have you, but they don't always work. Just like when they first put in the airbags in cars, they were the greatest thing since peanut butter. Saw a program on TV last night where they have become one of the hazards of owning a car. Babies are being killed. Drivers are being maimed because the thing come out too hard. They're no longer as safe as everybody thought they were going to be. So these safety programs are great if they work. And no matter how good a plan you have, there is no way you could stop the idiot. The idiot is going to cause an accident no matter what you do. Especially in the country where nobody can see him until he hits the other guy. And that was one of the biggest problems we had at Squaw Prairie with people running a stop sign. Everybody kept saying, do a study, do a study. Why? You know what's causing it? People are running a damn stop sign. Well, you can't stop the idiot. You can only stop the people who are there who are going to obey signs.
No other comments? All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen.
On to 9.8. Made a motion to approve joint funding agreement for federally funded PE. Motion is made by Mr. Mueller. Second by Mr. Curry. Is this you, Mr. Crowe?
I got about an hour and a half presentation. It's standard. We've talked about this. It's just our formal, it's required through the formal process of using federal money to have a federal agreement. So we've already discussed this and this has all been presented in the past.
Anybody else have any questions?
Where are you going to start?
We already have.
Okay.
We could, the reason we were able to before we get agreement, there's a method, and probably shouldn't even go into it, but there's a method to start before you get a formal, this agreement, once we pass it tonight, it'll probably be 6 months before we get it back from the Fed. So there's a local agreement that we can do ahead of time that we take the risk of not getting the federal money if something occurs, but it's very rare. So we did do that process to get things started already.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion carries. And now we have item 9.9. I need a motion to approve resolution 24-30 for the use of highway matching funds. Motion by Mr. Mueller, seconded by Mr. Logson. Justin?
In this resolution, it's just to say that we will promise to pay that 20%. We're using 80% federal. And this is basically saying a resolution that we have that 20% available. We do through our budget to do the 20% match.
Other questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Anything else for administration?
That's it, Mr. Riley.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to, we have nothing for 10.1 landfill, 11.1 no appointments for tonight, 11.2 correspondence, little article on the courthouse, it looks like, Becky, right?
It is, yeah, it was in the Northwest Quarterly, so.
Very interesting.
Nice of them.
Yeah.
Nice.
11.3 UCCI and advocacy groups, the county bulletin for this month is up, so be sure to take a look at that. Do not have a need for an executive session tonight, do we? All right, seeing none, I think we need one more motion for the night. Mr. Mueller?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Mueller, seconded by Mr. Schneider. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed to stay? Adjourned at 9:12 PM. Thank you, everyone.
You paid overtime tonight?
Yeah, remember we got.
Fill out a slip.
2 meetings.
35 or 65.